Silver Moon City's lord had come with hundreds of thousands of experts. Seeing Long Chun inside the egg, he smiled sinisterly. Enemies truly meet often. Ignorant brat, you'll finally pay the price for your ignorance. Even if you found the treasure, you'll only end up offering it to others. The city lord's figure swayed, and he suddenly shot at Long Chun. Old fellow, if you want to touch my boss, you'll have to get past me first. Guoran appeared in front of the city lord, wielding his dual sabers. Humph! A mantis trying to stop a chariot. You don't know your own power. The city lord sneered as he slowly extended his hand. A gleaming silver sword materialized within his grasp. With a swift yet deliberate motion, he raised the sword high above his head, causing divine radiance to erupt from its blade. After that, he slashed it at Guoran. As he launched his attack, a powerful manifestation burst into existence, taking the form of a silver crescent moon that arched forward like a hook. The glow emanating from it should have carried an aura of holiness and sacredness, yet an inexplicable sinister aura tainted it. Boom! Guoran's dual sabers clashed directly with the city lord's sword, resulting in an explosive collision. A dazzling mix of silver divine radiance and golden blood chi then burst forth from the impact. The city lord's body trembled involuntarily as he was affected by the force of the collision. On the other hand, Guoran was hurtled backward into the distance. The space behind rippled as he passed through it, indicating the terrifying force that had struck him. Despite the tremendous impact, the city lord was shocked to see Guoran remain unscathed. He didn't even cough up a drop of blood. However, deep inside, Guoran was not in a good state. The forceful strike had thrown his blood chi into chaos, and he found himself unable to gather his power again. That was a very dangerous state, as he needed to quickly regain control of his body. That attack was truly terrifying. Interesting. A weak person who somehow manages to control power 1,000 times beyond their capabilities. But so what? You are still a mantis futilely trying to stop a chariot. Only death awaits you, sneered the city lord. Big words. You, a divine venerate, have lived tens of thousands of years longer than I have, but you still have the face to brag about bullying a youngster. Your face is thicker than Silver Moon City's walls, retorted Guoran. Guoran was both shocked and infuriated by the city lord's mocking words. His dragon blood energy was as vast as a sea, and his power could topple the heavens. However, he was in a miserable state right now. The majority of his combat power resided within his battle armor, so the sudden surge of his bloodline power actually rendered his once ideal battle armor inadequate. After all, the runes inscribed in his armor were adjusted to his previous power level and couldn't swiftly keep up with such an increase in power. As a result, he found himself unable to use his battle armor properly. His battle armor had been like perfectly fitting shoes, but now that his feet were too big, his battle armor couldn't match his requirements anymore. He would have to inscribe new runes so that the two were a good match once again. The current Guoran was like running barefoot. Perhaps such a thing wouldn't be a problem for others, but to Guoran, who was used to wearing his perfect shoes, it was not a good situation to be in. If Guoran could get some time to adjust his armor, he would definitely be much stronger and wouldn't need to care about this city lord. Most infuriating to Guoran, however, was the audacity of this city lord. The latter had lived for so many years but had the gall to put on arrogant airs in front of him. The city lord seethed with anger at Guoran's words, unable to deny the truth behind them. As the lord of Silver Moon City, he had indeed lived for countless years and boasted a cultivation base 2 major realms above Guoran's. Thus, he had no qualifications to mock Guoran. In the same realm, he wouldn't have been a match for Guoran. All you do is spout empty words. Die! The city lord stepped forward, shooting toward Guoran like a bolt of silver lightning, not giving him a chance to recover. Boom! However, just as his silver sword was about to strike Guoran, a large runic shield appeared in front of him. As a result, the attack only caused that shield to shatter. A scholarly man then appeared in front of him. Xiachen had rushed over and blocked the city lord's attack. When the runic shield shattered, it erupted like a beautiful firework, sending silver light into the sky. The city lord's pupils constricted in astonishment. Xia Chun had dissipated his power into the sky without receiving even a bit of backlash. Such a marvelous technique was unlike everything he had ever witnessed throughout his long years of existence. At this moment, he put away any arrogance he had. Whether it was Guoran or Xia Chun, neither was capable of giving him a threatening feeling. But the fact that they could easily block his attacks made him feel wary. Go kill Long Chun. The city lord waved his sword to his people. As soon as he did that, Silver Moon City's hundreds of thousands of experts flooded toward Long Chun. Amongst them were two divine venerates with shocking auras. They were the city lord's left and right hands, and their power was second only to him. The two of them were charging ahead of everyone else. At this moment, two kinds of runes flowed on top of their bodies, and peculiar sounds emanated from their manifestations, reminiscent of the roars of ancient beasts. Seeing this scene, Xia Chun and Guoran were greatly shocked. Both of these divine venerates, who had joined the fray, were double supremes with supreme blood and supreme bones. If the two of them were double supremes, then the city lord had to be a double supreme as well. In other words, the current city lord had yet to use his full power. As a result, both Xia Chun and Guoran panicked. If they were to stop those two double supremes, no one would be there to stop the city lord. Just as the two of them were at their wits' end, two figures appeared and blocked the two double supremes. It was Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. The two of them had woken up just now and came charging over. Earth energy, malevolent spirit possession. When a giant beast appeared behind each of them, an ominous aura unfurled, accompanied by a low growl that reverberated through the air. It felt as though a bloodthirsty beast had set its sights on its prey. A rod appeared in both of their hands, enhanced by flowing runes on top. When the two beasts were drawn into their rods, the runes unleashed a burst of light. The next moment, with a resounding crash, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan smashed the rods at the two double supremes. Seeing this scene, the two double supremes felt as if a death god had locked onto them. With a howl, they also took out their weapons. Boom! Boom! Upon collision, both of their weapons exploded and they shot back like shooting stars. They couldn't even receive a single attack from Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. Profound earth energy? The city lord's expression changed, reflecting a mix of concern and alarm. It was evident that both of his subordinates had suffered a significant injury. At this moment, the silver moon in his manifestation spun. When two different kinds of runes appeared in his manifestation, his aura instantly grew multiple times, becoming violent to the extent of shaking the world. His aura was now several times greater than those two double supremes. Try to receive my attack if you dare, the city lord snorted, his sword slashing through the air again. This time, the power of his sword was condensed to the pinnacle. As a result, a thin cut was left in the void, looking like a blade cutting paper. Xia Chen's expression changed as he realized that he couldn't disperse this attack's power. Unexpectedly, a spear tore through the void, blocking this highly condensed attack. The collision produced a whirlwind of power that blew through this world. A large figure then appeared within this shattered space, his bald head illuminating the scattered runes. When he showed up, his aura was like that of an ancient beast and his hunter-like eyes were eyeing his prey. The awe-inspiring attack from the city lord was unable to shake his figure. The Dragonblood Legion's first captain, Gu Yang, is here to exchange a few pointers. When Gu Yang appeared, he was different from the other Dragonblood warriors, and it wasn't just because of his astonishing blood chi. His golden scales all had different runes in them. Each of his runes was like an erupting volcano, with violent power exploding out of them. Moreover, his power seemed to be limitless, to the extent that his aura even shocked the city lord. Gu Yang, with just a spear, stopped the city lord, like a mountain blocking the path of a river. Even with the city lord's mighty aura, he was still shaken by Gu Yang. Gu Yang's spear was blocking the city lord's silver sword. Both of their divine weapons creaked as they fought against each other. As a result, sparks and ripples were spreading in every direction. The clash was so intense that Guoran and Xiachun were stunned. When did Gu Yong become so terrifying? Wielding his spear with one hand, he easily stopped the city lord. It seems that Gu Yong ran into his own opportunity during this time, sighed Xiachun. Gu Yong had always been a power fighter. In the Dragonblood Legion, other than Longchun and Wild, his power was the greatest. Hence, now that he had undergone the baptism of the dragon blood and had condensed a heavenly Dao crown, his dragon blood battle armor far exceeded other people's. Brothers, you're not suited to solo fights. Leave him to me. Now that the Dragonblood Legion has gathered again, you have more important tasks to do. Gu Yong turned around and glanced at the two of them, a warm and emotional smile gracing his lips. Everyone was reunited at last. It seemed like an eternity since their last encounter. They had so much to share, yet so little time to do so. All their profound emotions could only be expressed through meaningful gazes. Boss Gu Yong is mighty. We'll leave this to you. Guoran laughed and flashed him a thumbs up. Between brothers, there was no need to say so many words. Just a single gaze was enough. Guoran and Xiachun were in charge of commanding the entire Dragonblood Legion. While Guoran served as the general, Xiachun was the formation master. Their primary strength lay in guiding the Dragonblood Legion's power, enabling them to unleash their greatest potential. Hence, engaging in individual combat really wasn't their forte, so they directly returned to the Dragonblood Legion's formation. Their objective was to consolidate the Dragonblood Legion's forces and ensure everyone acted as a cohesive unit, tightly bound together like an unyielding rope. Do you think you can block me? Dream on. The city lord seethed with anger, feeling deeply underestimated. His grip on the sword tightened, causing it to quiver. Boom! With an explosive sound, both of them retreated a few steps. No, I'm not going to block you. I'm going to kill you. This year, I've gone through trials of blood and fire, through pain that others cannot imagine. It was all for today so that my power would be able to match my status as the first captain of the Dragonblood Legion. Boss often said that even going all out, you might not see results. But you cannot be discouraged because it just means that the time hasn't come yet. On the other hand, if you don't focus on improving yourself because you're waiting for some opportunity, then you won't have the power to grasp that opportunity. You'll only be able to watch as it slips away. That's why I spent day and night cultivating during this time, to the point that my master couldn't bear to watch me. My master even thought that I became bedeviled multiple times due to my fanaticism. But I firmly believed that my boss would be right, that my efforts would be repaid. Today, I've finally grasped this opportunity and completely transformed. As for you, you are simply the stepping stone to my return as the first captain of the Dragonblood Legion, said Gu Yong calmly, his gaze fixed upon the city lord. Within his eyes, golden runes were flickering, representing two distinct dragon marks. Just keep talking like a madman. Do you think you can stall for time? How absolutely naive. The city lord didn't understand what Gu Yong was saying. So, with a cold snort, the two kinds of runes in his manifestation merged together, forming a chain that wrapped itself around his silver moon manifestation. As two different currents of power merged, the crescent silver moon emitted a blazing light. The city lord's aura began to slowly rise like the tide. Although it wasn't rising very quickly, it seemed limitless. Everyone, go all out. Don't give them any chance to breathe, shouted the city lord. He once more attacked Gu Yong with his silver sword. You're the naive one. In the 10,000 dragon devil nest, I experienced the pain of 10,000 dragons devouring my soul, tempering my spirit. Within the 10,000 dragon pool, I experienced the pain of 10,000 dragons digging into my heart, tempering my body. I brushed against death multiple times, and all I was lacking was an opportunity. Now, the moment I have been waiting for has arrived. I have not only merged with the essence blood of the immemorial Dragon King but also its soul essence and undying will. Today marks my triumphant comeback as the first captain of the Dragonblood Legion, and you merely serve as my first blood. If I fail to kill you, how can I fit to be the Dragonblood Legion's first captain? How would I have the face to follow my boss? Gu Yang's voice gradually intensified, resonating like a mighty dragon cry echoing throughout the 9 heavens, causing countless people to feel their ears ringing and their heads throbbing, as if on the verge of splitting open. Brothers, I, Guyang, have returned. I vow to not let you down anymore. The history of the martial heaven continent shall not repeat itself. I, Guyang, finally have the power to block the wind and rain for you. Guyang's voice quivered with a mixture of anger and sorrow, reflecting the profound helplessness caused by the devastating losses on the martial heaven continent. The memories of Chu Jianying, the old man, Ling Yunzi, and the other seniors who had fallen one by one weighed heavily on his heart. The sacrifices made by his brothers were killing him inside, akin to a venomous viper sinking its fangs into his very core. It was this pain that had driven him to cultivate like a madman. It was masochistic, but only by making himself feel pain could he feel a bit of peace. He refused to experience the same sense of powerlessness again. Thus, he forced himself to get stronger with every passing moment. It was now that the fury in his heart finally had a place to be unleashed. 10,000 dragons roar at heaven and earth. As Guyang roared, his manifestation burst into existence. Dragons appeared behind him in a 10,000 dragon diagram. Those 10,000 dragons roared together, their dragon cries resounding throughout every corner of heaven and earth. His dragon scales trembled with great intensity, each one having a rune grow on it. Upon closer inspection, they appeared to be miniature dragons. Boom! When Guyang raised his spear again, an overwhelming tremor shook the world. With unwavering determination, his spear stabbed forward, backed by the roar of 10,000 dragons. At this moment, this spear seemed to come from the depths of hell. The city lord was horrified to find that he was locked down by this terrifying attack. The current Guyang was like a real draconic life form. As the image of the 10,000 dragons roared in his manifestation, his killing intent erupted. His spear then mercilessly stabbed toward the city lord, locking him down fully. The city lord's cultivation base was 2 major realms above Guyang's. So, whether it was in terms of mental energy and spiritual strength, he far outclassed Guyang. According to reason, it should be impossible for Guyang to lock him down. However, Guyang relied on his towering blood qi to suppress heaven and earth, using the most barbaric and unreasonable method to lock the city lord down. Ignorant brat! You dare! At this moment, the city lord was shocked and enraged. As the ruler of Silver Moon City, he had only solidified his position after slaying countless lifeforms. So, it was his first time being looked down upon by a junior. Without hesitation, he unleashed a surge of silver energy with his sword, clashing with Guyang head-on. This confrontation was very simple and direct. Boom! As the silver light collided with the golden blood qi, the world underwent a transformation. Awash in a captivating blend of gold and silver hues, the impact of their collision tore the void apart, and waves of energy surged through the heavenly dais, creating ripples that reverberated across the world. What a terrifying physical body! A life form from the dragon mammoth race cried out in shock. It too possessed an incredibly terrifying physical body, but its power could not compare to Guyang's. Guyang and the city lord clashed and once more retreated. In this exchange, neither of them had any advantage. With a light swing of his sword, the city lord created a blooming sword flower. Like a venomous serpent, his blade lashed out at Guyang from every angle. This assault contained a myriad of variations, each strike infused with incredible malevolence. However, Guyang didn't even look at this technique, his rumbling spear simply swinging through the air. Borrowing the momentum from their last clash, he smashed it at the city lord's head. Seeing this scene, the city lord was taken aback. Guyang was clearly intent on dying along with him. A spear had a greater reach, so even though the city lord had attacked first, Guyang's spear would definitely reach him before the sword landed. Knowing that Guyang's spear would erupt with formidable force once it struck him, the city lord didn't dare to receive the terrifying attack with his body. As a result, his sword spun through the world, turning from a thrust to a downward slash. With perfect precision, His sword tip struck the point on Gu Yang's spear that was the hardest to control, 2/3 of the way forward. Boom! Overwhelmed by the force, the city lord's sword yielded under the strain, visibly bending, and his body quivered in response. With a grunt, he was blown away. In the end, the city lord still underestimated Gu Yang's attack. He had hoped to resolve Gu Yang's attack with a special technique and then counterattack. However, due to switching from offense to defense so suddenly, he was at a disadvantage. After all, Gu Yang's power was too condensed. Unable to properly disperse it, his power directly invaded the city lord's body through his sword, almost making him cough up blood. While the city lord was enraged, he also felt a burst of fear. Just now, he had thought about taking Gu Yang's attack in order to eliminate him. However, if he had truly done that, he wouldn't have just risked being injured. An attack with such highly concentrated power would have wiped his Yuan spirit out along with his body. If you're so afraid of death, you'll definitely die today. Sai, you don't even believe in yourself. No one can save you, sneered Gu Yang. He then stamped on the air, shooting toward the city lord with his spear in hand. Hearing this, the city lord was incensed. Gu Yang's words were like poison arrows piercing his heart. This evaluation was an insult. Ignorant fool, who do you think you are to dare teach a lesson to me? Shouted the city lord. While quivering in rage, his sword danced and thousands of sword images slashed toward Gu Yang. Gu Yang repeatedly blasted apart his attacks. Engaged in an intense fight, the two combatants unleashed torrents of wild qi, causing heaven and earth to tremble, as if on the verge of collapse. However, the two of them were relatively evenly matched. Golden blood qi and silver light repeatedly clashed, producing rumblings as if the laws of the heavenly Daos could not contain their power. This shocking battle left countless onlookers astounded, their jaws dropping in sheer disbelief. An immortal king is fighting a divine venerate, and the latter is a double supreme at that. Amidst the battle between Gu Yang and the city lord, a sudden and thunderous explosion shook the air, seizing everyone's attention. A blood mist then filled the air. Intrigued by the sudden turn of events, they turned toward the source of the commotion and saw a shocking scene. They just barely managed to see an elder being blasted apart by Li Qi's rod. That elder was the city lord's left hand. After his body was destroyed, his Yuan spirit fled in terror. He had never dreamed that he would encounter such a terrifying youngster here. He had only managed to receive 3 blows before his physical body was unable to endure. City Lord, save me. Even as he begged for aid, he didn't realize that his respected city lord was in an intense battle with Gu Yang and had no time to bother with him. Malevolent spirit devours souls. After destroying his physical body, Li Qi didn't continue to attack, not even raising his rod. Instead, he formed hand seals, and that malevolent spirit figure behind him opened its mouth. That figure was like an ominous devil. When it opened its mouth, it revealed countless sharp teeth. Having lost his physical body, the assistant of the city lord suddenly felt a powerful suction drag him back. Even as he fled, space seemed to retreat, and his Yuan spirit was slowly pulled toward a sinister mouth. He struggled with all his might, but he was only dragged closer and closer to that mouth, causing him to despair. No! Regretfully, all his struggles were useless. He was still sucked into that mouth. Boom! When that mouth closed, everyone saw his Yuan spirit collapse, devoured. The malevolent spirit's mouth then wriggled a bit as if it was chewing. Its crocodile-like eyes actually lit up as if it was enjoying the taste. Save me! Just then, the other assistant to the city lord screamed miserably. He wasn't even done begging for help before he was devoured by the other malevolent spirit. His physical body instantly exploded and blood mist came out of its mouth. His Yuan spirit directly swallowed. At this moment, the left and right hands of the city lord, 2 double supreme divine venerates, were slain just like that. Everyone was shocked. Were these people all monsters? As for the army of hundreds of thousands of experts that the city lord had brought with him, they were dumbfounded. Their city lord was now blocked by someone, while his 2 assistants were already slain. Having reached the Dragon Blood Legion and seeing their murderous gazes, they instantly began to sweat. "Since you've come, don't leave." Li Qi and Song Mingyuan formed hand seals, and the two big malevolent spirits behind them suddenly exploded, transforming into millions of smaller malevolent spirits that swarmed over the Silver Moon City's army. "Run!" someone cried out. When millions of malevolent spirits swarmed over them, sharp pain racked their Yuan spirits. Moreover, they all had a bad feeling. An intense sensation of terror made them instinctively want to flee. Suddenly, heads began to explode. Their Yuan spirits were sucked out by a mysterious force and devoured by those malevolent spirits. Countless bodies crashed to the ground, creating a harrowing scene. However, people noticed that those who perished had weak Yuan spirits. Only people with weak souls had their Yuan spirits forcibly ripped out. Those with powerful Yuan spirits felt pain, but they were not substantially harmed. "Don't be afraid. Work together and charge out," shouted one of them. Following his orders, the experts of Silver Moon City gathered. They prepared to charge out of this encirclement. However, the Dragonblood warriors didn't chase them. After all, they had to guarantee Long Chen's safety. As long as these experts stopped attacking him, everything was fine. Suddenly, the earth exploded and two giant hands reached out of the ground. Each palm depicted an image of a giant malevolent spirit. "World Extermination Palm!" Li Qi and Song Mingyuan shouted in unison, and those giant hands immediately slammed together like swatting a mosquito. "No!" Swiftly, the two hands covered the sky, leaving the Silver Moon City's experts unable to react as they were crushed. Then the world became silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. Those two hands were like soaring mountains, boundlessly large, giving off an incomparably shocking feeling. People then saw fresh blood slowly pouring out of the two palms. Within the blood, special runes could be seen giving off various energies. That blood, the supreme blood, slowly merged into the earth, dyeing the land red. Everyone was silent, terrified by this attack. Looking at those hands, they shivered uncontrollably. When the hands slowly opened, people only saw some specks on them but not a single corpse. Hundreds of thousands of experts were slain just like that, leaving behind no corpse or Yuan spirit. In such a solemn situation, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan suddenly clapped their hands in the air, causing everyone to jump. Just as they thought that the two were preparing some big move again, they realized that it was nothing more than a celebration of their victory. This technique had each of them controlling one hand, yet they executed the task perfectly. It was such flawless cooperation. Both of them were earth cultivators and had the same master. As a result, their combination technique was also flawless, stunning everyone. After seeing this scene, anyone else attacking the Dragonblood Legion fled for their lives. The only ones still fighting were Gu Yong and the City Lord. However, the City Lord was incensed at the moment. He had brought all the elites of Silver Moon City to fight for more primal chaos chi. But most of them were dead now. "All of you can die." The City Lord let out a powerful roar, causing the silver moon in his manifestation to appear on his forehead. He was absorbing the manifestation into his body, resulting in it being enveloped in a radiant silver light. In an instant, his aura surged, doubling in strength. The next moment, he unleashed 18 sword attacks at once. However, Gu Yong forcibly received all of them and continued to force the City Lord back step by step. In the air, both sword chi and spear images raged ferociously, accompanied by the echoes of dragon cries that shook the sky. The 10,000 dragons in Gu Yang's manifestation seemed to come to life, starting to move. With each motion, dragon chi flowed into Gu Yang's body, causing his scales to ripple like the tide. His power then intensified crazily, growing beyond measure. "You are the only one who's going to die. Do you want to absorb the surrounding primal chaos chi to fully merge your supreme blood and supreme bone? Keep dreaming," sneered Gu Yong. The power of 10,000 dragons flowed within his body, bestowing him with endless power. His spear danced in the air. The City Lord was shocked, never expecting this bald fellow to possess such power. Unbeknownst to him, Gu Yong had cultivated a secret art of the dragon race. As a result, on his own, he had absorbed almost half of that immemorial Dragon King's essence blood. Gu Yong had also assimilated fragments of that Dragon King's divine abilities. Though incomplete, it was enough to benefit him. With these fragments, he swiftly grasped certain divine abilities that had previously eluded his understanding. Because of the secret art of the dragon race, the essence blood of 10,000 dragons was flowing within Gu Yang's body. He had suffered unimaginable pain to absorb them, but to actually control them was another matter. That was because every dragon had its own will. It was very difficult to merge them all. However, after absorbing the essence blood of the immemorial Dragon King, with its might, the essence blood of the other dragons could only submit. So, for the first time, Gu Yong was capable of controlling the full might of 10,000 dragons. Even the full power attacks of the City Lord didn't make him take a single step back. On the other hand, he was suppressing the City Lord. The City Lord felt like he might explode in rage. He had gone through 3 treasure lands on his way here and had absorbed a huge amount of primal chaos chi. If he could absorb the primal chaos source where Long Chun was, he would definitely be able to merge his supreme blood and supreme bone. The City Lord had indeed missed the best timing to merge his supreme blood and supreme bone. But that did not mean that it was impossible. Even though he had become a divine venerate, he could still merge the two. The only requirement was an astronomical quantity of primal chaos chi, tens of thousands of times more than what a normal person needed. For this one chance, he had waited tens of thousands of years. But then, on the verge of his success, some hateful bald fellow just had to block his path. This was his final chance, and if he missed it, he would no longer have any chance of merging them in his lifetime. If he couldn't fully merge his supreme blood and supreme bone, he would never be a true double supreme, forever incapable of unleashing the full potential of a double supreme. Thus, he urgently needed more primal chaos chi. But it wasn't just him. All the supremes in the 3,000 worlds wanted to absorb as much of it as possible. Gu Yong perfectly blocked the City Lord. No matter how the City Lord tried, Gu Yong remained steadfast and unyielding. Frustrated, the City Lord could vent his fury through anguished screams. Just as they were fighting, a mocking voice suddenly pierced through the air, and the sky became shrouded by blood-colored clouds. The Great Lord of Silver Moon City can't even beat a member of the junior generation, someone who still reeks of his mother's milk. What a joke. Children of the blood race, teach this inferior human race what true power is. Successive experts emerged from within the blood-colored clouds, descending directly upon the Dragon Blood Legion. At this moment, a battle chariot whistled through the air. A wizened elder was standing in front of it, overlooking the entire battlefield. He was no taller than 5 feet, skinny and small like a shriveled chimp. However, his aura was like the great sea of stars. Just by standing there, the world quivered because of his existence. His aura was even stronger than the City Lord's. This was a terrifying expert of the blood race. The laws, the 10,000 Daos, swirled around him, as if linking him to all of heaven and earth. The City Lord's expression sank in response to his mocking, but he didn't say anything. He just continued fighting Gu Yong, as if he hadn't heard the provocative words. Seeing him not respond, that elder of the blood race was very pleased. On the war chariot, he ordered the millions of blood race experts to crash down on the Dragon Blood Legion. Inferior human race, you are only fit to crawl beneath the mighty blood race. If you don't want to die, then scram, shouted the blood race's elder. Boom! In response to his words, 2 giant hands exploded out of the ground, not giving the elder any time to defend himself before being smashed. Bang! The impact caused heaven and earth to tremble. That elder along with tens of thousands of the blood race's vanguard were caught within those palms. The hands were closed, yet they continued to quiver as if some immense power was resisting them. This was a competition of power. Explode! A furious howl could be heard from inside. Following that, those 2 hands exploded into flying bits of earth. When the elder flew out of the grasp of those 2 hands, Everyone saw that he was in a wretched state. He was covered in blood, and that mighty war chariot of his was gone. Idiot! If you didn't detonate your iron blood war chariot, you'd be dead right now. Your foolishness cost you the lives of tens of thousands of your people. As expected, the blood race really is a low-grade race. The Lord of Silver Moon City took this chance to mock that elder. The two were actually mortal enemies, competitors on the same level. Having fought openly and secretly for countless years in the 3,000 worlds, both of them had taken countless casualties among them. As a result, the city lord naturally wouldn't warn him about how powerful these youngsters were. Seeing the elder be so arrogant as to not even activate his protective divine light, the city lord already knew how he would fare. The blood race's elder was infuriated at his losses. Those two hands had come too suddenly, and his arrogance had clouded his mind, making him too overconfident and not prepared for combat. If he hadn't detonated this priceless treasure of his, he would be dead now. Only then did the realization dawn upon him as to why the city lord had remained silent in the face of his taunts. It was to make him suffer alongside him. The more he thought of that, the angrier he became. Ignorant junior! You dare to attack this city lord? Die! Blood Domain 10,000 Dao Merger. When the Blood Race Elder's manifestation burst into existence, a blood-colored domain appeared with two kinds of twisting runic chains, unfurling violent power in all directions. He was another double supreme divine venerate. A blood-colored spear materialized in his grasp, and with a great force, he stabbed it toward the Dragon Blood Legion. The rest of the Blood Race's army followed behind him like a roaring dragon. A withered monkey also dares to be so arrogant? Have a taste of my rod. Li Qi sneered and stepped forward. When he did so, the malevolent spirit manifestation behind him roared. Boom! Li Qi's body shook intensely as his rod clashed with the incoming spear. The impact forced him to stagger backward, taking 3 swift steps. Also, each step resonated with such force that the earth quivered, leaving behind giant footprints. He was dispersing all that power into the ground beneath his feet, and this allowed him to endure less power. As for the Blood Race Elder, he was startled as his blood chi was flipping inside of him. Just as he was shocked, another rod silently attacked him from behind, making his expression change. He had no time to turn around, so he simply swung his spear behind him. Bang! Song Mingyuan appeared, and the attack that he had prepared for a long time sent the elder flying. The latter smashed toward the ground like a meteorite. Earth rock art! Li Qi then formed hand seals, and the soft earth instantly began to shine, creating a giant millstone, which was sleek and glossy like iron. With just a look, everyone knew that it clearly had shocking hardness. Just then, the elder smashed into its surface. With a heaven-shaking explosion, that giant millstone shattered and smashed deep into the earth. From this, it could be seen just how much force the elder had been struck by. The elder bounced off that hard millstone. In the air, he coughed up 3 mouthfuls of blood. Perhaps Song Mingyuan's attack wouldn't have caused much damage to him if he had simply struck the ground. But when he instead struck that solid stone, there was nowhere for his momentum to dissipate. All of that force simply tore through his body. However, he was truly worthy of being a mighty expert on the level of a city lord. His physical body was frighteningly powerful. If it was anyone else, they would have been like an egg striking rocks just now. Not even their bones would have remained. Again! Boom! The 2 giant hands once more appeared. Upon seeing this, the elder's soul almost fled in terror. His blood chi was in chaos right now, and he was unable to concentrate his power. If he was struck by this move again, he would definitely die. Those 2 hands slammed together, but blood chi burst out of the elder's body this time. By the skin of his teeth, he escaped through a crack. He had just escaped when 2 rods smashed toward him, not giving him a chance to recover. Li Qi and Song Mingyuan repeatedly struck him. Although the elder fought with all his power, he was repeatedly forced back. In just a few moves, he was sent flying by a strike to his leg from Li Qi. Song Mingyuan was about to follow up, when another member of the blood race charged over, blocking his attack. He was another double supreme divine venerate. He had been leading the blood race's army's assault on Long Chun, but seeing this elder in crisis, he came to save him. However, blocking Song Mingyuan's attack caused him to cough up blood and be blown back. Clearly, even amongst double supremes, there were great differences in their power. His power was a far cry from this elder's. The elder finally had a breather. At this point, another 3 elders came charging over, so now 5 double supreme divine venerates were closing in on Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. However, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan's cooperation was flawless. Even against all 5 of them, the 2 were capable of doing both offense and defense. They came and went as they pleased, in control of the tempo of the battle. On the other hand, the 5 of them might lose their lives if they were unexpectedly struck by one of their attacks. With Li Qi and Song Mingyuan holding back the 5 of them, the rest of the Blood Race's army was pouncing on the Dragon Blood Legion. Seeing them flooding over, Xia Chen's eyes were filled with blazing battle intent. Brothers, it's time to find that familiar feeling. Get into the circular slaughter formation. Following Xia Chen's orders, over 2,700 Dragonblood warriors switched from an absolute defense formation to a killing formation. It was like a closed flower was instantly blooming. Each the inside, the middle, and the outside had 900 Dragonblood warriors moving back and forth. They were like giant gears spinning, grinding down the Blood Race's experts. The Dragonblood warriors moved through the battlefield at high speed. Like spinning saw blades, they tore through their enemies. It was the same formation and the same people as before. However, after undergoing through their new life in the immortal world, these Dragonblood warriors were no longer the same. They had experienced trials and pain during this time. Hence, their light was sharper, stronger, and more ruthless than ever. They had even more confidence in themselves now. The Blood Race had been planning on using their number superiority to instantly crush them. But in the blink of an eye, hundreds of them died. In front of the Dragonblood Legion, they were weaker than sheep and could only be slaughtered. Run! In just a moment, someone realized that things were different from their expectations. They were simply dying on contact. This offensive formation was sharp and unbreakable, something that they couldn't suppress with mere numbers. Save me! No dash! I don't want to die! However, just as they wanted to retreat, they found that there was no leaving once they were in. The surrounding space twisted and the currents outside refused to allow them to escape. Most terrifying of all were the Dragonblood warriors. Like 3 coiling dragons, they dominated this space. Every group of 900 Dragonblood warriors was its own force, and touching a single one of them was equivalent to touching the combined force of 900 Dragonblood warriors. That power made their enemies despair. The Blood Race's army could only cry, already despairing without any ability to resist at all. They could only watch as they were mercilessly slain. Only the Blood Race experts that had yet to charge into their midst were unaffected by the invisible flows of space. They could flee, but the rest were slain in just a few breaths' time. Millions of experts were crushed in the blink of an eye, and only over 100,000 survived. Right now, the Blood Race's experts were dumbfounded and terrified. Their current enemies were definitely not humans, but rather devils, monsters, or death reapers. After their offensive formation did its part, all the Dragonblood warriors, as well as Xiachan and Guoran, were incredibly excited. Their blood was boiling with excitement as they had found again the old feeling of fighting together to their heart's content. For over a year, they had been fighting for themselves. Now, they had all grown stronger, and this newfound strength combined them into a solid, unyielding rope. Even they were amazed and afraid of their new power. The proudest and most emotional of them all was Xiachen. Just now, he had just divided the Dragonblood warriors into new groups and subdivisions. He then distributed new runes to them and told them to get accustomed to their new positions and the people beside them. Unfortunately, the Blood Race's experts immediately came, and they didn't have any time to practice. But in an instant, they could showcase a staggering level of synergy within their newly formed teams. This achievement filled Xiachun with an immense sense of pride. Clearly, The Dragonblood warriors were capable of tacitly working together on a profound level. It was as if this synergy had been branded into their blood and souls. A mere gesture or glance could convey unspoken thoughts among them. This tacit cooperation was something that had been tempered through countless life and death battles on the Martial Heaven continent. It was something that would never fade away. Just as the Dragonblood warriors drove off the Blood Race's army, countless powerful auras emerged, coming from every direction, signifying the arrival of more city lords. Just based on the auras that they could sense, there were at least dozens of them. Ha ha ha! The ancestral dragon scale. A little human wishes to consume the ancestral dragon scale? Don't fantasize like that. This treasure isn't something that you can touch. A boisterous laughter echoed from a member of the beast race, his entire body enveloped in scales with eagle-like wings sprouting from his back. Notably, a long tail several times the length of his body extended from his hip region. That thin tail was like a whip, but its tip was a silver-gray bone spur that gave off a chilling sharp light. This was a life form that they had not seen before. His body gave off an immemorial aura, and there were countless demonic beasts behind him. The inferior human race thinks they can touch a sacred object? Humans really do have the greediest hearts, but you'll have to spit out whatever you swallowed. Another commanding voice rang out from an enormous, terrifying expert. His bronze skin was covered in runes and his voice was like a drum, capable of shaking people's souls. One expert after another appeared, each possessing auras on par with the Lord of Silver Moon City and the Blood Race's elder. In fact, some of their auras surpassed the two of them. It was unbelievable that dozens of experts on this level would appear at once. Their attention was drawn toward the immemorial dragon corpses. Yet their eyes were ultimately fixated on the dragon scale eggshell enclosing Long Chun. Each of them harbored a fervent desire to possess it. These people all came from different powers and races, but they all knew that their primary objective was to break that golden eggshell around Long Chun. Bastards! Seeing so many terrifying experts appear at once, Gu Yong, Li Qi, Song Mingyuan, and the others hastily pulled back and prepared to face them. How laughable! Seeing this scene, that unknown life form with the long tail sneered. His tail then whipped through the air in a strange arc at Gu Yong. Boom! With a forceful stomp, Gu Yong created two ripples in the void. The world trembled as a result, and in this exchange, that unknown life form was blown far into the distance by Gu Yong. So the human race actually produced someone on this level? But it means nothing, as I will not give you any chance to grow. All of you will die today. Another powerful expert charged forward, immediately launching a sharp killing blow right at the start. You're the ones who are going to die. Once boss comes out, not one of you will live to escape, roared Gu Yong while stabbing his spear forward. Bang! Due to just having fought off the other life form, Gu Yong was at a disadvantage here. This time he was the one blown back. Heaven Earth Spirit. Shield Heaven and Earth. All of a sudden, the earth rippled under the command of Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. With great coordination, they quickly summoned a thick earthen wall, effectively blocking those experts outside. Boom! However, that wall was forcibly blown apart. They're not going to give us time to strengthen it, shouted Song Mingyuan. Before the earth wall's power was fully condensed, it was already shattered. Couldn't block the attacks of this many experts. Inferior human race, priceless treasures aren't something that you can touch. As the earth wall shattered, a figure flew through, seemingly teleporting right before the Dragonblood warriors. Wearing a fierce smile, he swiftly formed hand seals, causing blood-red light to condense in his hands. A horrifying pressure quickly spread from his body, infecting the surroundings. Inferior? Are you talking about yourself? An icy voice rang out at this moment, accompanied by a sword that slashed through the air. Just like that, sword chi sliced through this figure from the crown of his head to his crotch, cleaving his body in two. A subtle quiver coursed through his now divided body, his expression contorting into one of sheer terror. Following that, his body slowly fell apart, two halves falling to the ground. Even the light that he had just condensed in his hand was perfectly split in two like a neatly cut-up fruit. As his body and divine light were impeccably severed in two, the true form of a handsome man was revealed on the other side. With starry, cold eyes, he stood resolute, his presence exuding an air of icy detachment. Long Chen's subordinate, the Dragonblood Legion's fourth captain, Yu Zifeng, is here to respectfully send you on your way. After saying that, Yu Zifeng stepped forward. His sword slashed toward another city lord-level expert who had just charged forward. Yu Zifeng's arrival instantly revitalized the Dragonblood Legion. He was a peerless sword cultivator. Even Long Chen had personally admitted that in terms of pure attack power, Yu Zifeng was number one in their legion. At this time, Yu Zifeng's robes fluttered gently along with his black hair. With a sword in his hand, he was walking gracefully through the air. He appeared the same as back then. However, his aura had changed. It was sharper and fiercer, no longer reserved, just like an unsheathed sword. Even the 10,000 Daos would be cut apart by his sharpness. When his sword fell, there were no ripples in the void, no awe-inspiring explosions. It looked just like a simple sword, but it cut apart the laws of the cosmos and shattered the boundaries of spacetime. People's perception itself even seemed to falter, as if heaven and earth had been cut apart, leaving their senses disoriented. That expert before him cried out in shock. Sword cultivator. Every expert wished to avoid facing sword cultivators the most. They were the most unfathomable existences with unmatched power. As the world's most illogical existence, their killing power couldn't be judged by cultivation base and realm. Furthermore, there were huge differences between sword cultivators. An ordinary sword cultivator might only count as above average amongst others in the same realm. In a clash in the same realm, that sword cultivator would only have a higher chance of victory. However, there were also some absolutely terrifying existences amongst sword cultivators. They were able to disregard cultivation bases, disregard realm differences, and disregard the very boundaries of the heavenly Daos. They were beyond the suppression of the laws, beyond all limitations. When that first expert was slain, his very technique was sliced along with him, leaving countless people horrified. Hence, the next target hesitated for but a single moment, pondering whether to block or flee. When Yu Zifeng's sword mercilessly fell, that expert took out a giant shield at this critical moment. However, his shield had just appeared when his body trembled uncontrollably. The shield was untouched, but he was already cut in two. What? Countless people were shocked now. That person's shield had clearly appeared in front of him. So why was he killed while the shield was undamaged? Could sword chi kill people through shields? No. That's the power to sever the laws of spacetime. A frightened cry suddenly rang out. Yu Zifeng had indeed not struck that person through the shield. He had first struck that person, and only then did the latter manage to raise the shield. In other words, Yu Zifeng's sword had transcended the limits of spacetime. When they saw Yu Zifeng's movements, it was already after he moved. His sword was above the laws. How can there be such a terrifying sword cultivator? People quivered with fear. Even the city lord-level experts were afraid. For him to have transcended laws meant that by the time they saw him raise his sword, they would already be cut in half. Yu Zifeng suddenly took a single step, crossing the gap to strike another expert. Even though this expert was already fleeing, when Yu Zifeng's sword fell, this expert's body was still cut in too far in the distance. The trajectory and angle of Yu Zifeng's attack defied common sense, deviating entirely from his physical position. It was like whenever Yu Zifeng moved his arm, an invisible sword would just fly out and kill his opponent. That strange scene terrified countless people. Sword cultivators were unreasonable, completely illogical. They could not be judged according to the standards of the cultivation world. Yu Zifeng unleashed 3 blows, killing 3 people who were double supreme divine venerates. Moreover, they didn't even have the power to retaliate in front of him. Seeing this scene, the Dragonblood warriors cheered excitedly. These experts were finally afraid and switched to retreat, fleeing like they were avoiding the plague. A man with 1 sword scared off dozens of double supreme divine venerates. That scene was truly astonishing. Use numbers to crush him. Sword cultivators are completely focused on offense. Defense is his fatal weakness, so even an ordinary person's attack can kill him. Attack! Shouted one of them, directing his army of hundreds of thousands. Sword cultivators were indeed terrifying. This was known to all. However, their weakness was also not a secret. Everyone knew that sword cultivators could only attack, not defend. The more terrifying the sword cultivator, the more their focus was on offense. That was what made their attacks like an unblockable heavenly blade. However, the heavenly Daos were fair. Such terrifying attack power resulted in a giant hole in their defenses because they sacrificed their defenses for an absolute offense. If they were struck by an attack, they could easily be slain. Hence, in a chaotic battle, if someone could grasp an opening, they could instantly launch a fatal blow. Kill that human brat. All of you charge. If anyone dares to hold back, I'll kill you myself. Attack. The others also gave frantic orders, sending their disciples charging at the terrifying sword cultivator. Following that, those experts clenched their teeth and poured toward Yuzifeng, crashing toward him like the tide. 10,000 swords execute immortals. Yuzifeng let out a resounding shout. In that instant, he swiftly formed a seal with his left hand, while simultaneously lifting his right hand with the sword raised high. Like a blooming flower, countless sword images sprang forth, filling the air. After that, millions of sword images quivered before descending like the rain. The sword images instantly enveloped those attackers, tearing through weapons and armor. Nothing could stop them. After this one attack, countless lifeforms fell from the sky. Their bodies had bloody holes in them that didn't look too big, but the fires of their souls were extinguished. The moment they were struck, the will of the sword Tao crushed their souls. The human wave tactic failed, leaving the divine venerates in a state of shock and fury as their people died. This was definitely the most terrifying expert that they had ever seen. He can sever the laws of space-time, and the will of his sword Tao is invincible. Who can stop him? Demanded one of them with a mixture of fury and helplessness. Unless the merge of your bone and blood is complete, the only way to stop him is using a true heavenly Tao crown, which allows you to merge into the heavenly Daos. Only then can you face the ability to sever the laws of space-time, said one of them. However, they were all divine venerates. Although they possessed both supreme blood and supreme bones, at their realm, fully merging them required an enormous amount of primal chaos chi. Since that was the case, compared to these heavenly geniuses in the Immortal King realm, they had little chance of actually accomplishing it. A sword cultivator? I want to see if you really are as amazing as the legends say you are. Just then, an arrogant voice rang out. His voice resounded like thunder, reverberating through the air. At this moment, a sinister aura covered the entire world, overwhelming it with a violent power that made it hard to breathe. In the distance, a person with a dragon spear emerged. With every step he took, the earth quivered. It was like an immemorial demon god had come. This person was the one who had been here the longest, Longchinian. He also had a dragon inheritance, and it was from the most treacherous dragon, the crafty ghost fox evil dragon race. The ghost fox evil dragon race was from the same branch as the dark evil dragon and the purgatory evil dragon. The evil dragon race had violent and dark blood flowing in their veins. They were naturally brutal and bloodthirsty. However, they also had their own pride and didn't play sinister schemes. It was only the ghost fox evil dragon that specialized in that. Legend had it that the ghost fox was the emperor race of the foxes in the desolate era. Although they were a beast race, they also possessed the power of the ghost Tao. In a battle against the evil dragon race, they were ultimately wiped out. However, before being annihilated, the ghost fox race laid down a curse, making the evil dragon race pay a terrifying price. It was a curse that would destroy the evil dragon race in the future. At the time, the evil dragon race didn't particularly care about the curse. It was only later, hundreds of thousands of years later, that mutated evil dragons began to appear amongst them. These evil dragons appeared no different from ordinary evil dragons at the start. But once they grew strong, the ghost fox's will would awaken within them, and they would betray the dragon race. They were not just powerful but also crafty. Some ghost fox evil dragons were even sitting in positions of power within the dragon race. Later on, they personally wiped out all their subordinates. Some ghost fox evil dragons might not be in positions of authority, but they secretly caused the deaths of their branch. The evil dragon had millions of branches, and every branch would produce ghost fox evil dragons. Because of them, the evil dragon race took immense losses during this period. In the end, the evil dragon race underwent a major cleansing, slaughtering countless members of their own race with the mark of the ghost fox on them. As a result, the powerful evil dragon race plummeted within the ranks of the dragon race, never to recover. Only at that moment did the evil dragon race come to a grim realization. The ghost fox race's curse was not just a scare tactic. It was merged into their bloodline. As the evil dragon race continued to reproduce, their bloodline was passed down and more mutated evil dragons appeared. They would awaken the curse of the ghost fox, giving them an intense desire to destroy the evil dragon race. The evil dragon race's biggest headache was that there was no way to resolve this curse. The only method was for the sacred dragon's holy light to cleanse their entire race. That would be the only way to fully remove the curse. Despite that, every tens of thousands of years, a new calamity caused by the ghost fox evil dragons would happen. Every time, a storm of blood followed. Just like the evil dragon was the nightmare of many cultivators, now the ghost fox evil dragon became the nightmare of the evil dragon race. In Long Chinian's youth, he had a lucky encounter and found a ghost fox evil dragon on the verge of death. That ghost fox evil dragon had been hunted down by the evil dragon race's experts. Although it ultimately slaughtered its pursuers, it also was pushed past its limit. Seeing Long Chinian and finding his character was a good match for its sinister and vicious self, it found that despite being human, Long Chinian didn't reject its blood. Hence, it didn't give Long Chinian a chance to decline. It directly transferred its own bloodline power, magical arts, divine abilities, and ghost fox's will into Long Chinian's body. If it weren't for the ghost fox evil dragon being completely out of energy to the point that it couldn't simply take over his body, there was no way that this would have benefited Long Chinian. That ghost fox evil dragon knew that as long as the ghost fox's will was present, Long Chinian would go crazy as soon as he encountered any member of the evil dragon race. That was enough for it. After obtaining the inheritance of the ghost fox evil dragon, Long Chinian's power soared like a shooting star. Not one person could receive a single blow from him in the same realm, and that continued for many years until he encountered Xiaoguhong. Only then did his undefeatable legend end. However, Long Chinian refused to accept this loss. In his mind, the reason he lost was because he hadn't fully drawn out all of his potential. His ghost fox evil dragon's supreme blood and supreme bone were in slumber, and he had to obtain enough primal chaos chi to awaken them. However, even after all his efforts, he was barely able to gather any primal chaos chi. With it, let alone merging his supreme bone and supreme blood, he couldn't even awaken his supreme blood, the simplest step. In the end, he sealed himself, waiting for his chance. As Long Chun triggered a change in the heavenly tomb, he caused the treasure lands to open. At the same time, Long Chinian sensed the call of dragon blood. When he came here and saw the sacred dragon scale, he wanted to absorb it, but he was repelled by its divine might. Hence, he couldn't absorb it. However, he found that the thing calling him was one of the immemorial dragons, not the golden dragon scale. To be precise, it was the corpse of a ghost fox evil dragon. Now, he had finished absorbing its essence blood. He was the first to arrive and already had the inheritance of the ghost fox evil dragon. As that immemorial dragon corpse had a high affinity with him, he naturally absorbed it faster than others. Other than that, the ghost fox evil dragon's aura was too special, leaving the others with no way but to absorb the primal chaos chi coming from it. Only he was capable of obtaining its acknowledgement. As he absorbed its essence blood, he also received the nourishment of primal chaos chi. Thus, he had finally achieved his goal and came out to attack Long Chun. Seeing Yu Zifeng blocking the way, making dozens of double supreme divine venerates flee, he directly challenged Yu Zifeng. At this moment, his powerful blood qi shook everyone, and his heavenly Dao crown had two different kinds of runes flowing within it. He has fully merged his supreme bone and supreme blood. He is a true double supreme, cried out a city lord enviously. Only when one had fully merged the bone and blood could one become a true double supreme. Furthermore, the synergy between the two was far from a mere addition. Their combined power multiplied exponentially, potentially dozens of times. After all, Long Qinian was an immortal king, the optimal realm for this merger. The amount of primal chaos qi that he required was less than 1/10,000th of what a divine venerate required. A true double supreme had finally appeared. At this moment, Long Qinian's aura crashed down on everyone. The legends surrounding double supremes left everyone breathless, including the city lords who watched with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Fortunately, Long Chun was the target, not them. Long Qinian pointed his spear at Yu Zifeng. He coldly said, "I'll give you 3 moves. Go ahead and attack." A giant dragon with foxy eyes appeared in Long Qinian's manifestation, looking nefarious. A dragon's eyes were usually circular, but these peculiar ones were long and narrow, its gaze alone containing a dark aura of hatred and maliciousness. It was like those eyes were filled with a desire to destroy the entire world, and people couldn't help being afraid when looking at them. 2 divine radiances intertwined atop this dragon, representing the power of Long Qinian's supreme blood and supreme bone. In contrast, others around him were surrounded by 2 kinds of runes as well, yet they remained separate and unable to converge. Within Long Qinian's manifestation, however, these 2 energies seamlessly melded together, resembling flowing currents, proof that he had fully merged his supreme blood and supreme bone. At this moment, Long Qinian pointed his spear at Yu Zifeng, and his aura emanated a reserved intensity, akin to a crouching tiger waiting to launch the killing blow. Sword cultivators are like unsheathed swords. No one can stop them. As they have severed their path of retreat, they will fearlessly face even the most formidable opponents. They are also willing to face certain death, knowing that to do otherwise would shatter their Dao heart, rendering them unworthy of the title Sword Cultivator. "So I wonder, do you dare to fight me?" asked Long Qinian provokingly. Within the 3,000 worlds, Long Qinian was the first to fully merge his supreme blood and supreme bone, and the first thing he did after that was to challenge Yu Zifeng. Brimming with anticipation, everyone looked at Yu Zifeng to see his response. However, Yu Zifeng was just standing there, without a single ripple on his handsome face. His gaze was still calm, seemingly indifferent, as if nothing could shake him. To the surprise of all present, Yu Zifeng gradually sheathed his sword. This unexpected action left everyone in a state of bewilderment. A sword cultivator was said to be the proudest cultivator in this world. They were unafraid of any challenge and cultivated another kind of undefeatable Dao. Hence, they had to maintain a clear Dao heart at all times. Otherwise, if their Dao heart was clouded, they would forever lose the heart of the sword Dao. For someone like Long Qinian to challenge him, how could Yu Zifeng possibly decline? However, against all expectations, he actually sheathed his sword. What childish provocations, what crude acting. Do you want me to charge into your obvious trap? Yu Zifeng looked at Long Qinian. His gaze was cold, and his voice was even colder. Moreover, those eyes of his were so clear as if they could see through all falsehoods in this world. Upon being stared at like that, Long Qinian's heart shuddered. But he managed to maintain a composed expression. So a sword cultivator is simply this? Those legends about a sword god are truly just stories for children. The sword god is a fake covered in dog's hit. In an instant, a wave of trepidation washed over the hearts of everyone present as they gazed at Long Qinian with sheer horror. It had to be known that while the legend of the sword god had nothing backing it, it was a sacred existence to sword cultivators. Numerous legends circulated about the sword god, each with its own variations. Consequently, many people doubted whether or not the sword god ever existed. But to sword cultivators, the sword god was their faith. To question the sword god was to challenge the core of their faith. As a result, Anyone who dared to show disrespect toward the sword god would be hunted down by all sword cultivators. It was considered the gravest blasphemy within their ranks. Had Long Chinian gone crazy? No one knew how many terrifying sword cultivators existed within the 9 heavens and 10 lands. He was clearly asking to die. Let alone a little immortal king like him. Even divine venerates wouldn't dare to speak like that. A profound silence enveloped the surroundings as all eyes remained fixed upon Yuzifeng. Much to their astonishment, he remained remarkably composed, devoid of any visible signs of anger. However, his gaze turned even colder, piercing through the onlookers. Though his sword was sheathed, his hand clung firmly to the hilt, a subtle indication of his unwavering readiness. You are a second-rate expert, as true experts disdain using such schemes. My boss said that those who scheme like this lack confidence in themselves. Someone who lacks confidence will waste their energy on thinking up schemes. Thus, some people may appear to be smart schemers, when in reality, they are the epitome of foolishness. On the other hand, some people may look foolish outwardly but possess true wisdom within. You shouldn't have said that. By blaspheming the sword god, you have fully sealed your own fate, leaving me with no choice but to end you. Yuzifeng looked at Long Chinian apathetically. Kill me? Ha ha ha. Long Chinian raised his head like he had just heard the world's funniest joke. Big words. If you have guts, come over here and fight. Let's see what dogs hit the blessing of the sword god is. Long Chinian even added further provocation, enraging the Dragonblood warriors. They were all well aware of Yuzifeng's unwavering faith in the sword god. This Long Chinian's mouth was just too filthy. On the other hand, Yuzifeng ignored this provocation and slowly closed his eyes. The world turned silent, as if all sound had suddenly vanished, being sucked away without a trace. At the same time, Long Chinian's hair stood on end. His very soul trembled, as though some ancient beast had fixed its gaze upon him. All of a sudden, Yuzifeng opened his eyes, revealing 2 piercing sword-like runes in them. There was no flowing blood chi, no rumbling of the heavenly Daos, and no manifestation. But all the murderous aura within heaven and earth seemed to gather within Yuzifeng. Yuzifeng's sword then came out of its sheath like a dragon cry, filled with a murderous feeling. A ripple of radiant light cascaded forth from the sword, swiftly descending toward its target. Yuzifeng then moved along with his sword, directing its target not toward Long Chinian, but toward a specific point in front of him to the left. Boom! With a heaven-shaking explosion, the void was torn apart, exposing countless chains. They were like a net protecting Long Chinian. What treachery! He set up a trap beforehand, raged a Dragonblood warrior furiously. Long Chinian had intentionally provoked Yuzifeng just to make him run into this trap. Those chains were originally invisible, impossible to sense. If it weren't for Yuzifeng's attack, no one would have noticed their existence. However, when Yuzifeng's sword struck them, they instantly shattered. In front of Yuzifeng's sword chi, unbreakable chains were cut through like mustard leaves, incapable of blocking his sword at all. At this moment, Yuzifeng appeared in front of Long Chinian. He then swung his sword 3 more times, and 3 nets of chains were shattered, startling everyone. Long Chinian was quite the schemer. How had he set up such a trap without anyone noticing it? This trap had escaped everyone else's senses, but not Yuzifeng's. Just as the final net was destroyed, a spear silently pierced toward Yuzifeng's back, making everyone jump. Long Chinian had clearly been in front of him. Zifeng, watch out! Xiachen and the others cried out. Everyone's warning was too late. Yuzifeng's back was already pierced by that spear. However, to everyone's surprise, after his body was pierced, it dissipated like smoke. A sword then struck the master of that spear from a bizarre angle, exposing it. It was another Long Chinian. A clone art. This clone also dissipated as Yuzifeng's sword slashed through its fading image. Just as everyone thought that this attack had no effect, they saw blood in the distance. The clone, which had already fled and dodged Yuzifeng's attack, was still injured by his sword chi. There was a large cut in its chest. Long Chinyan's clone roared furiously with a voice that was not human. It was a dragon's roar that contained furious dragon might. So you absorb that dragon's essence, blood and soul. And this clone is a puppet condensed from its dragon soul with your dragon blood as a foundation. As long as your dragon blood continues to exist, it will live forever. But so what? If this is your trump card, you won't survive 3 moves, said Yuzifeng. He stepped forward, vanishing. His speed seemed to have escaped the limitations of spacetime. People barely saw a glimpse of his sword as it slashed toward Long Chinyan. You keep talking big. How shameless! Long Chinyan roared furiously. His traps had no effect on Yuzifeng, and he was even looked down upon. This was a huge insult to him. Evil dragon protection. Dragon bone golden body. In a sudden eruption of power, golden bone armor burst out of Long Chinyan's skin. The bone plates swiftly assembled, enveloping him in complete protection. Every bone plate gave off a terrifying aura, akin to a scaled armor made from world domain divine items. When this armor appeared, his aura instantly erupted to a new level. The supreme bone is summoned as a bone armor. His supreme bone is actually defensive. Every person's supreme bone had different abilities, with some emphasizing offensive prowess while others prioritized defense. Moreover, they had a vast array of attributes, offering endless special abilities. On the other hand, supreme blood was something that could be directly summoned to increase one's power. But the supreme bone could only bring out its true potential once it was merged with the supreme blood as a foundation for its power. The potential for diverse and extraordinary powers seemed limitless. When Long Chinyan's bone armor appeared, streaks of lightning appeared in the sky and crashed down upon him. Heavenly lightning tempering armor? A chorus of startled cries rang through the air. It was believed that when powerful magical arts and divine weapons were born into this world, they would inevitably attract the wrath of heavenly lightning. The existence of some supremely powerful armor and armored magical arts would be viewed as a direct challenge to the heavenly Daos and draw down heavenly punishment. If they could not endure the might of the heavenly Daos, they would be destroyed, and the person who tried to summon them would also be slain. At this moment, spears of lightning crashed down with shocking auras. Each of them was practically equivalent to a full power attack of a city lord. However, unexpectedly, those lightning spears would simply explode on contact with this bone armor, unable to cause any damage. After 36 bolts of lightning failed to damage the bone armor, a new layer of resplendent light appeared on it. The bone armor finished the tribulation. It has obtained the approval of heaven and earth. What can possibly break it? A city lord cried out in shock. It was their first time seeing such a terrifying defense. Yuzifeng was now right in front of Long Chinyan's true body, his sword descending with formidable force. At the same time, Long Chinyan's clone also attacked Yuzifeng's back. What? Startled cries rang out. What was Long Chinyan intending? Was he really going to receive Yuzifeng's attack with his bone armor? If Long Chinyan could block Yuzifeng's attack, then Yuzifeng would be met with the fatal strike of his clone. But if Long Chinyan failed to block it, his true body would be slain while his clone would persist, still capable of killing Yuzifeng. This was the unique characteristic of a dragon blood clone. It had its own consciousness and could even survive after the true body died. In this situation, regardless of the outcome, it seemed inevitable that Yuzifeng's fate would be sealed. However, Yuzifeng showed no sign of giving up. Seeing this, everyone instantly understood that a sword cultivator possessed their own pride and confidence. If Yuzifeng retreated, it would become a setback to his Dao heart. As a sword cultivator, he couldn't fear death, nor could he do anything to ruin his Dao heart. Long Chinyan had taken note of this point before setting up this trap for him. However, Yuzifeng was still indifferent. Without the slightest ripple in his eyes, his sword slashed toward Long Chinyan's head. All of a sudden, Long Chinyan made a move. He raised his hand, and to everyone's surprise, a dragon spear appeared in his grasp. The very same dragon spear that was originally held by his clone now resided in his hand. Boom! Holding his spear horizontally, he directly clashed with Yu Zifeng's sword. As a result, a wave of sword chi exploded, tearing through heaven and earth, causing a black crack to spread all the way to the end of the world. That black crack continued through Long Qinian's spear and into his body. His bone armor became covered in cracks as well. Long Qinian coughed up blood. In an instant, his bone armor's divine light turned dim, and he was almost slain. What? Seeing this, the spectators' eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It had to be known that Long Qinian's battle armor hadn't even been shaken by heavenly lightning, showcasing its astonishing defensive powers. But now, it was almost destroyed by one strike of Yu Zifeng's sword. Sword Soul? Long Qinian retreated far into the distance, staring at Yu Zifeng in shock and disbelief. His bone armor was covered in countless cracks, and his dragon spear now had a peanut-sized nick in it. This one blow had almost crushed him alongside his weapon. Yu Zifeng's sword possessed a supreme will, a kind of energy containing his full mind and spirit. It was something that transcended all laws. When Long Qinian blocked that sword, his soul almost crumbled, as if his soul was fleeing for its life. Hence he was shocked, angry, and terrified. Just now, if he hadn't absorbed his clone's power at the last minute, this attack would have wiped him out of existence. That was the first move. Here comes the second. Yu Zifeng's sword trembled. In a seamless fusion of sword and man, he transformed into a shooting star, shooting toward Long Qinian with unmatchable speed and precision. Yu Zifeng achieved absolute unity with his sword, transcending his physical form. His figure then vanished, leaving nothing but the ethereal embodiment of his sword. When this sword slashed through the air, the 10,000 daos crumbled in front of it. Long Qinian was engulfed by an extraordinary sense of terror, realizing that he had severely underestimated Yu Zifeng. He had never encountered such a terrifying sword cultivator before. When Yu Zifeng vanished, an inexplicable phenomenon unfolded. In an instant, all presence and existence vanished as well, leaving behind an eerie emptiness. All that remained seemed to be Long Qinian alone, and the sword slashing down upon him seemed completely unstoppable. He actually felt despair well up within him. Long Qinian knew that his will was already suppressed by Yu Zifeng's sword Dao. He had already lost, and the price of loss was death. Ghost Fox Sacrifice. Blood Bone Heavenly Burial. In a sudden surge of blood, crimson streams gushed out of Long Qinian's body. His manifestation then trembled, and the bone plates on his body shifted and stacked on top of each other, transforming him into a giant dragon. Boom! This giant dragon was the Ghost Fox Evil Dragon. Long Qinian had actually sacrificed a portion of his supreme blood and supreme bone in order to summon the heroic spirit of the Ghost Fox Evil Dragon. As this Ghost Fox Evil Dragon unleashed a thunderous roar, a wave of unimaginable power swept through the surroundings. Countless individuals experienced excruciating pain as if their heads were splitting apart. Their ears ruptured, causing blood to pour forth, rendering them deaf, unable to hear anything anymore. Evil Dragon Sphere. Long Qinian's face was pale while standing atop the Ghost Fox Evil Dragon's head. As he formed hand seals, his aura merged with the Ghost Fox Evil Dragon. The jaws of the Ghost Fox Evil Dragon opened wide, and within its maw, a colossal sphere began to form. This sphere pulsated with two distinct streams of energy intertwining within it, and the sheer magnitude of this power reverberated through the heavens, causing even the stars themselves to tremble in response. What kind of power is this? Even city lords cried out in shock. They had never seen such a terrifying move before. Die! With a resounding roar, Long Qinian's hand seals changed. He then forcefully slammed his hands on the dragon's head. Instantly, blood-colored marks spread across its massive head, and that sphere shot out with endless destructive energy. Meanwhile, Yu Zifeng was still merged with his sword, his power unwavering. Spots of light appeared on the edge of his sword, resembling a constellation of stars. In front of countless experts, Yu Zifeng pierced into that giant sphere just like that. Boom! With a heaven-shaking explosion, that giant sphere was pierced through, sending shockwaves rippling in every direction. Amidst the chaos, a ray of sword chi continued to surge toward the ghost fox evil dragon. What? Everyone was stunned by this. Had this terrifying attack stopped Yu Zifeng or not? The sphere of light remained, but Yu Zifeng's sword chi had pierced through it to strike the ghost fox evil dragon's head. Boom! That sphere and the ghost fox evil dragon's head exploded at the same time, unleashing massive mushroom clouds that billowed into the sky. However, the aftermath lingered, as if time itself had slowed down, gradually dissipating the remnants of the devastating impact. Although that sphere of light had been pierced, Yu Zifeng's attack was incredibly condensed, so it continued to strike the ghost fox evil dragon at almost the same time. That was why everyone saw two giant mushroom clouds explode at the same time. In the surroundings, fragments of the Grand Dao runes became visible. They also saw heaven and earth torn asunder and wild chi waves surging forth. Countless experts were blown away by these chi waves. Even the city lords were unable to stand at the core of this tempest and were forced to retreat. These astral winds were like blades, forcibly ripping a layer of earth out of the ground. The immense power caused even the surrounding 18 dragon corpses to be blown far into the distance. When the dragon corpses were moved, it revealed the underground primal chaos sources. Observing from above, the scene resembled a circular formation of 18 springwater mouths surrounding the area where Long Chun stood. With the displacement of these 18 dragon corpses, a torrent of boundless primal chaos chi surged forth, filling the surroundings with its raw and untamed energy. Previously, these sources had been suppressed by the dragon corpses and flowed out slower through them. Hence, without any obstruction, the primal chaos chi soared and this world instantly became a sea of primal chaos chi. Seeing this scene, everyone was delighted. They didn't even need to do anything. Just standing there, they were absorbing endless primal chaos chi. As they absorbed this primal chaos chi, they looked at the battlefield. They saw Yu Zifeng calmly standing there, looking the same as ever with his hair and robes fluttering lightly. Other than his face being slightly pale, it seemed that he was fine. Heavens, sword cultivators really are unnatural monsters. He's fine even after such a terrifying attack. The city lords were especially shocked when they saw this. Even for them, if they were struck by such an attack, not even a trace of them would exist afterward. Standing in front of Yu Zifeng, Long Chinian coughed up blood, each spurt accompanied by the emergence of a dense blood mist. That mist then scattered in the wind, transforming into runes that flowed around him. What shocked the onlookers was the fist-sized hole in his chest. Through that hole, it was possible to see a ghost fox evil dragon crazily raging in his manifestation. When Yu Zifeng's sword quivered, the void trembled along with it. He then looked at Long Chinian coldly. That was the second move. You said that you'd give me 3 moves. Then I promised that if you can receive my third move without dying, I'll let you live. Yu Zifeng's voice was completely apathetic from the start. Regardless of Long Chinian's provocations or the emergence of his formidable trump cards, Yu Zifeng remained as calm and serene as a bottomless well. This profound apathy exuded an aura of an unfathomable existence. His sharp gaze in particular felt like it could pierce through all fabrications in this world. It was a gaze that others didn't dare to look directly at, as if a single gaze could pierce through the secrets deep within a person's heart. Yu Zifeng's sword then pointed at Long Chinian. When the sharp will of the sword Dao locked onto him, Long Chinian instantly felt like he had become immortal. It was as though his clothes were stripped from him, and he was tossed into the ice and snow. That icy feeling then spread throughout his whole body, leaving even his soul numb. Long Chinian was horrified, unable to think what had gone wrong. He had obtained the inheritance of the ghost fox evil dragon. After that, with an ocean's worth of primal chaos chi, he had merged his supreme blood and supreme bone. He had thought that he was unrivaled within the same realm, that he would sweep through the 3,000 worlds. He had even been planning on getting revenge on Xia Guhong after leaving this world. Then, he would step into the peak of his life, becoming the master of the cosmos. However, His dreams hadn't even started before he encountered Yu Zifeng. With 2 emotionless blows, Yu Zifeng shattered his confidence along with those dreams. Yu Zifeng actually called himself a subordinate of Long Chun. In other words, he was weaker than Long Chen. Now, Long Chinian couldn't even beat Long Chen's subordinate? Long Chinian took this as a wordless insult. Ah! Long Chinian suddenly roared like an injured beast, full of anger and resentment. He refused to accept this cruel reality. His manifestation then exploded, transforming into fragments that merged into his body. His aura, which was originally starting to weaken, once more reached its peak. It was unknown what secret art he had used to instantly recover his lost energy. "Come, let me see just how strong this attack of yours is," shouted Long Chinian. When people heard this, they shook their heads. Long Chinian had lost, having accepted his defeat in his soul. He had already lost the courage to compete with Yu Zifeng. Right now, he was only thinking about receiving Yu Zifeng's attack to stay alive. Could be said that Yu Zifeng had shattered his confidence with 2 attacks along with his ambitions. Yu Zifeng snorted and raised his sword, but all of a sudden his gaze turned cold. He stamped on the air and then vanished. What shocked everyone was that Yu Zifeng didn't attack Long Chinian. Instead, he appeared by Long Chen's side and swept his sword out. A dagger somehow appeared in the air, striking Yu Zifeng's sword. As a result, the void exploded and a figure was forced out. "Ji Wuming!" Xia Chun and Guoran cried out furiously. Their worst fears had become reality. The fearsome assassin, Ji Wuming, had finished his merger. Before this, Ji Wuming already had high talent in controlling spacetime. So, now that his supreme blood and supreme bone had merged, his assassination arts were unstoppable. Even Xia Chen's formation had lost effect against him. He had managed to slip through them and get close to Long Chun without any of them being aware of it. Fortunately, Yu Zifeng was here. Otherwise, if they allowed Ji Wuming to get to Long Chun, the consequences would be too terrible to imagine. When Yu Zifeng's sword stopped Ji Wuming sneered, his body slowly fading. Like a drop of water falling into the sea, not a trace of him could be found. Yu Zifeng's expression changed ever so slightly. When Ji Wuming vanished, even his sword Dao failed to lock onto him. He could no longer track Ji Wuming. "Protect boss!" shouted Xia Chen. The Dragonblood warriors retreated, holding a tighter encirclement around Long Chun. They didn't know if being this close would interfere with his absorption of the dragon runes. But there were no other solutions. Long Chen's safety was more important. Ji Wuming's voice began to ring out, coming from every direction. "Interesting. So what? If I aim to kill Long Chun, you can protect him. But if I aim to kill someone else?" Suddenly, Yu Zifeng vanished again, his sword piercing toward the void and at a figure that appeared for only a flash. This time, Ji Wuming wasn't aiming for Long Chun but a Dragonblood warrior. As for that Dragonblood warrior, he didn't even sense anything. Ji Wuming's ghost-like movement art was chilling. "Idiot! If you have guts, come out and fight!" shouted Guoran furiously. "Only an idiot would say something so idiotic. My goal isn't to be number 1. I only want that dragon scale. As long as I kill Long Chen, all the energy that he absorbed will be released. All his efforts will have been for nothing. I want to know, how much power does an already injured sword cultivator have to be able to stop me? You should know that the initiative is in my grasp. As for you, you are forced to defend passively. You're using up far more energy than me. How many of my attacks can you block? I can fail countless times, but if you fail once, it means that one of you will be slain." Yu Zifeng once more attacked, accurately blocking Ji Wuming's next attack. The 2 of them were so fast that others only saw sparks fly. They didn't even get a glimpse of Ji Wuming this time. People looked at Yu Zifeng in shock. Sword cultivators were said to be the bane of assassins. Assassins could accurately kill their targets in one blow without them even being aware of it, but sword cultivators were the only exception. Sword cultivators had frighteningly sharp senses that could render the concealing techniques of assassins ineffective. The latter might not even be able to get close before being slain. Even so, Yu Zifeng was facing no ordinary assassin but the Bloodkill Hall's greatest heavenly genius, someone who had merged his supreme blood and supreme bone, along with the spatial and temporal energy. However, even this terrifying assassin was blocked by Yu Zifeng, unable to harm anyone. People were amazed by both of them. Let's see how you will guard this. Just then, Long Qinian grasped his chance and came charging over with his dragon spear. Although he didn't know Ji Wuming, the enemy of his enemy was his friend. As long as Long Qinian could hold back Yu Zifeng, even for just a moment, Ji Wuming would instantly kill Long Chun. Long Qinian admitted that he wasn't a match for Yu Zifeng, but he refused to accept this lying down. He would rather gamble, speculating whether Yu Zifeng would dare to focus his full power on him, or if Yu Zifeng would prioritize dealing with Ji Wuming instead. Guarding until you see the Yama King should be no problem. Suddenly, a large figure appeared in front of Long Qinian and tossed something at him. It was a human head with an expression of furious resentment. It belonged to the Lord of Silver Moon City. As for the one blocking Long Qinian, it was Guyang. He was covered in blood and had dozens of small wounds on his body. It seemed that he had paid a price to kill the Lord of Silver Moon City. But shockingly, even though he was covered in wounds, his aura was even stronger than before. He was like an injured wild beast. They were always the most dangerous once they were injured. Which trash are you to dare to block my path? Scram! Long Qinian roared furiously, not viewing Guyang as a serious opponent. He then stabbed his spear at Guyang. To everyone's surprise, Guyang simply stood there, neither dodging nor blocking. As a result, Long Qinian's dragon spear directly stabbed through his shoulder. Guyang! Xiachun, Guoran, and the others were dumbfounded. They didn't understand why Guyang didn't block this attack. Was he already out of energy? Even Long Qinian was startled. What was this bald fellow doing? He. Guyang's laughter resonated, emanating a somber and eerie tone. Blood then slowly trickled down from his wound. When 10,000 dragon runes appeared in his eyes, his face reflected the visage of a fiendish being. Good. Just like that, just like that. I'm close. Keep going. Guyang suddenly took a step back, pulling the spear out. After that, he pointed at his own chest, indicating for Long Qinian to keep stabbing him. Are you a masochist? You know you can't sue me, right? Long Qinian was dumbfounded. He had never witnessed someone so crazy. If you don't come, let me. Without hesitation, Guyang fearlessly moved forward and allowed the spear to stab into his chest. More blood then gushed out of the wound. Everyone just stared, thinking that he had gone insane. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion shook this world, causing everyone's heart to tighten. It felt like someone had just viciously squeezed their insides. He. Finally it's enough. Guyang looked at the spear inside of his chest and laughed sinisterly. As the runes in his eyes weaved together, they were no longer the eyes of a human, but those of a fiend. Boom! The next moment, another explosion erupted and countless heavenly geniuses coughed up blood. They didn't even know what they were injured by. People only looked around in terror, not knowing what was going on. The spear in Guyang's body shook, almost forced out of his body. At the same time, Long Qinian's palms met with an intense backlash. He almost lost hold of his dragon spear. Guyang's strange eyes were staring at him, making his hair stand on end. For some reason, an intense sensation of terror climbed within him. What kind of monster are you? Shouted Long Qinian. Boom! As another explosion erupted, Long Qinian grunted and was blown back along with his spear. The sheer impact caused his feet to dig into the void, leaving behind a trail of smoke as he fought to regain his balance and stabilize himself. When the spear was forced out of Guyang's body, people could finally see the bloody hole in his chest. They then saw the source of that explosive sound. His heartbeat. Finally, success. Wrath of 10,000 dragons dyes the world. 10,000 dragon armor. Guyang roared, his voice piercing the clouds and splitting rocks. As the 10,000 dragons in his manifestation roared, the sky changed color. The roars of 10,000 dragons shook the world, seeming to come from the distant past and yet still containing endless killing intent. At this moment, the 10,000 dragons in Gu Yang's manifestation were flying, filling the sky. As for his scale armor, it was now covered in images of various dragons. Gu Yang appeared to possess immense power, as if the strength of 10,000 dragons resided within him. This was a true dragon blood battle armor, surrounded by blood qi that erupted with fierce intensity. Witnessing this spectacle, Long Qinian was left dumbfounded. But he was not the only one. Xiachun, Guoran, and the other dragonblood warriors shared the same astonishment. Their gazes fixed on Gu Yang, but they couldn't recognize him. Presently, Gu Yang emanated an overwhelming killing intent, his presence reeking of raw brutality and an insatiable thirst for blood. Moreover, his eyes appeared as if multiplied by 10,000, each layering upon the other, casting a foreboding and ominous gaze. Excellent! I've finally ignited the wrath of the 10,000 dragons. Now the battle can really start. Come. The first captain of the Dragonblood Legion would like to ask for some pointers. Gu Yang's voice was raspy like a dragon cry, containing immense fury. As countless runes slowly spun around his spear, people were mesmerized by it, witnessing the boundless energy brewing within. Only now did people understand why Gu Yang was covered in wounds. He had accumulated these injuries to ignite the wrath of the 10,000 dragons. He had fought the Lord of Silver Moon City, but the City Lord was too weak. Even when Gu Yang wanted to accumulate injuries, the fight was unable to stimulate the fury of the 10,000 dragons. Thus, he allowed Long Qinian, who innately possessed dragon blood power, to injure him. Even better, Long Qinian also had the inheritance of the ghost fox evil dragon, who was not only the enemy of the evil dragon race but also a humiliation to the entire dragon race. The dragon race was far too prideful to accept such schemers into their ranks, as they relied on power to resolve their conflicts. However, the ghost fox evil dragon shattered that norm, resulting in the wrath of the 10,000 dragons. As a result, when Long Qinian's power entered Gu Yang's body, the effect was 1,000,000 times better than the City Lord's attack, helping Gu Yang quickly reach the necessary level. This was Gu Yang's ultimate trump card. However, he only knew of this move and had never managed to activate it until now. As he successfully summoned and donned the 10,000 dragon battle armor, the power of 10,000 dragons flowed through his body. He then smashed his spear at Long Qinian. Boom! In response, Long Qinian fiercely swung his spear as well, triggering a tremendous explosion that reverberated through the surroundings. After that, the sky was engulfed in giant ripples, while the sheer force of the impact sent Long Qinian flying. What? Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Although Long Qinian had been beaten by Yu Zifeng, they had all borne witness to his power. Moreover, Long Qinian had used a secret art to raise his power to his peak in preparation for receiving Yu Zifeng's final blow. Hence, it could be said that the current Long Qinian was no weaker than when he fought Yu Zifeng. In fact, he might be even stronger. But even in that state, he was blown away by Gu Yang, leaving the people dumbfounded. With a forceful stomp on the air, Gu Yang shot after Long Qinian, generating a blazing tempest. He suddenly appeared right in front of Long Qinian and then unleashed a storm of attacks. Long Qinian let out a fierce roar, desperately attempting to block Gu Yang's relentless assault. But despite his valiant efforts, he was still forced back. Within a matter of mere moments, he was propelled beyond the horizon, disappearing from sight. Yet, the remnants of their battle were still felt, as the reverberations of their earth-shattering chi waves resonated in the air. Meanwhile, Yu Zifeng slashed his sword once more, blocking Ji Wuming's next assassination attempt. Just as Yu Zifeng successfully blocked Ji Wuming's assault, Guoran and Xiachun swiftly joined the fray. Their weapons and talismans exploded at Ji Wuming's location, but to their surprise, Ji Wuming had already vanished. They couldn't harm him at all. As for Yu Zifeng, his face was growing paler. To spread his mental energy throughout the entire battlefield was extremely taxing. Furthermore, he had just used up a great deal of energy fighting Long Chinian. Ji Wuming just had to casually attack, but Yu Zifeng was constantly using up a great deal of energy to block him. If this continued, Yu Zifeng wouldn't be able to last much longer. But there was no other solution. Other than Yu Zifeng, no one could stop Ji Wuming, who could control space and time. Anyone who was sneak attacked by him would almost certainly die. Just then, the divine venerates in the surroundings also noticed this. There were over 1 trillion people here now, all staring at the golden egg that Long Chun was in, unable to wait any longer. In the end, someone roared and took the lead to charge over. Following that, tens of thousands of divine venerates and 1 trillion heavenly geniuses crashed forward like the tide. In response, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan swung their weapons. To people's surprise, even after experiencing such a bloody battle, both of their auras had only grown stronger. Even city lords could not receive an attack from them. The malevolent spirits in their manifestations devoured the Yuan spirits of experts, growing stronger as they absorbed more. Thus, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan also got stronger. Despite both of them successfully repelling waves of foes, the sheer number of enemies was just too overwhelming. Wanting to be the final lucky victor, these lunatics wanted to tear a piece of meat out of Long Chun. At this moment, Guoran and the others couldn't bother with anything else and just entered their killing formation. Even knowing that there was a terrifying specter like Ji Wuming in their midst, they could only do this to protect Long Chun. Their killing formation slaughtered all these experts as they met. Even with a numbers advantage, these experts were unable to break through the blockade of the Dragonblood warriors. Yu Zifeng slashed his sword, once more blocking the ephemeral Ji Wuming. However, this time the one to be sent flying wasn't Ji Wuming but Yu Zifeng. This was already his 17th time blocking Ji Wuming, and the amount of energy Yu Zifeng had used up to keep track of him nearly equaled the energy he had exerted while engaging Long Chinian in combat. On the other hand, Ji Wuming barely used up any energy at all. This was an extremely unfair competition, but the battlefield had never been fair. You really are powerful. A sword cultivator in possession of such stamina is beyond my expectations, making me feel uneasy. You are an even greater threat to me than Long Chun, so I should kill you first. Ji Wuming suddenly appeared and pounced on the tottering Yu Zifeng. Seeing him in trouble, Xia Chun and Guoran immediately flew over. Don't fall for it. His target is boss, shouted Yu Zifeng. He wanted to block Ji Wuming, but the world suddenly spun around him. He was at his limit. Just like that, Ji Wuming passed through the blockade of the Dragonblood warriors like a ghost. Looking at Long Chun in the egg, he smiled sinisterly. His dagger then stabbed toward Long Chun's head like a bolt of lightning. Yet, just as his dagger moved, his expression abruptly changed. It was as if a jolt of electricity had struck him. His body inexplicably vanished, and he gave up on this assassination attempt. When Ji Wuming reappeared, he was already outside of the battlefield. But when people saw him clearly, they cried out in shock. A deep bloody cut could be seen on his neck, like a sharp blade had cut across it, almost cutting off his head. "Who's there?" shouted Ji Wuming furiously. Just then, ripples appeared in the void before Long Chun, and an indistinct figure slowly emerged from within those ripples. A pretty youthful maiden, appearing no more than 13 years old, emerged from the rippling void. Adorned in black leather armor, she stood before them. As if to answer Wuming's shout, her lips parted, and with deliberate slowness, she uttered 3 words. Dong Mingyu. When Dong Mingyu appeared, her appearance remained identical to her presence on the Martial Heaven continent. Clad in skin-tight black leather armor, she resembled a sleek leopardess exuding a distinct air of danger and allure. She was like an elf of the night. Her very appearance caused the world to darken a bit, as if the curtain of night was on the verge of descending. All of a sudden, the world was filled with a shadowy feeling. You are Dong Mingyu? The shadow sex Dong Mingyu. Ji Wuming's pupils shrank immediately. The name Dong Mingyu had been mentioned to him by Enputa on multiple occasions. Enputa had repeatedly told him that she was the only person in the same realm capable of killing him. Previously, Ji Wuming hadn't cared particularly about her. But with the opening of the 3,000 worlds, Enputa had sternly warned him to be careful of her. Only then did Ji Wuming get a sense of how serious this was. When that dagger appeared in front of his neck, he didn't sense it coming at all. If he hadn't merged his supreme blood and supreme bone, causing his control over space and time energy to rise to a new level, his head would have left his body. Ji Wuming was a powerful assassin, the future master of the Bloodkill Hall. He was viewed as the best successor by Enputa. In fact, his talent in the assassination field might even surpass his master's. His control over space and time made his perception shockingly sharp. A sharp perception was many times simply a matter of innate talent, making it difficult to enhance through external means. With that powerful perception, others couldn't sneak attack him. Moreover, an assassin with sharp perception would always have the initiative, able to advance and retreat up to their own will. They were essentially unbeatable. However, today that sharp perceptiveness failed him. Dong Mingyuan's dagger had silently cut his neck without him realizing it. Furthermore, the angle from which Dong Mingyu's attack came was extremely bizarre. Luckily for him, he had directly used his spatial energy to teleport rather than instinctively retreating. If he had retreated, that dagger would have spun and cleanly cut off his head. Thinking of that, he became covered in a cold sweat. That particular instance marked the closest he had ever come to the brink of death. Little Yu. Upon seeing Dong Mingyu standing before Long Chun like a protective god, Xia Chan and Guoran were delighted. She had actually managed to drive away Ji Wuming. Dong Mingyu nodded toward them. Looking at Yu Zifeng, she said, "I'm sorry for being late. Leave this one to me." Yu Zifeng nodded. As a fellow assassin, Dong Mingyu was the ideal match for Ji Wuming. If Yu Zifeng was in his peak condition, he wouldn't fear Ji Wuming. But Ji Wuming was too contemptible, aiming at everyone, forcing Yu Zifeng to defend passively. It had to be known that sword cultivators specialized in the offense. So, defending was naturally Yu Zifeng's greatest weakness. Upon uttering those words, Dong Mingyu turned toward Long Chun, who was inside the golden eggshell. Ripples danced in her beautiful eyes, causing her icy countenance to melt and transform into a gentle and warm smile. To her, Long Chun embodied hope, illuminating her world like a beacon of light. He represented a promising future, a radiant world that contrasted with her previous darkness. "As long as I'm here, no one can hurt you," whispered Dong Mingyu. She then turned back to Ji Wuming. "My oath starts with you. I'll use your blood to bear witness to my oath." Humph, big words. It just so happens that I want to experience the shadow sex assassination arts. Today, in front of everyone, we'll see just who the true king of assassins is, replied Ji Wuming coldly. "No, I'm not competing for the title of king of assassins with you. Our shadow sect only views you as prey. You are my first target, and after I kill you, I have an appointment with your master. So, are you ready?" Dong Mingyu's smile vanished as soon as she turned from Long Chun, returning to her former iciness. All her emotion had vanished, and what remained was an apathetic desire to kill. The ignorant are always unafraid. Today, I'll see just how much ability you have. Ji Wuming vanished. There was no longer a trace of him. Even if you have a supreme blood and a supreme bone, even if you've merged the two together, and even if you have talent in the law of space and time, you don't know the true Tao of assassination or the fear in human hearts. Without it, you will never be a decent assassin. It seems that my master overestimated you. Dong Mingyu shook her head in the face of this sudden vanishment. Suddenly, her dagger made a light cut, making ripples in the void. Dong Mingyu's body then entered those ripples like they were a spatial gate. Boom! In the next instant, a powerful explosion erupted in the distance, and Ji Wuming's figure was blown out of the void. Dong Mingyu's body was half outside the spatial gate, while the other half materialized in front of Ji Wuming. A vast expanse of thousands of miles separated the two halves. This astonishing spectacle left even the city lords dumbfounded, for they had never beheld such a mesmerizing display of movement art. Ji Wuming's expression contorted with surprise as his spatial technique proved ineffective against Dong Mingyu. Bewildered, he couldn't fathom how she had done this. He even speculated that it might have been a stroke of sheer luck or a blind guess on her part. However, he didn't dare to try it again. If he guessed wrong, then displaying the same technique in front of Dong Mingyu would be courting death. An assassin's prowess extended beyond the mastery of assassination arts. They also needed to be able to assess the battlefield, swiftly deducing the best attacking style for any situation. Boom! Suddenly, Ji Wuming's left and right hands lit up. Runes then materialized on top of his palms, causing the world around him to ripple like water. Reality itself seemed to invert, as time and space intertwined and twisted in mesmerizing fashion. At this moment, Ji Wuming unleashed the full power of his supreme bones at once. His figure swayed and fragmented, splitting into 2, then further dividing into 4, and finally expanding into 8 distinct embodiments. 8 Ji Wuming materialized simultaneously, their auras indistinguishable from one another. It was evident that this display surpassed mere image reflections or spiritual avatar techniques. These were genuine clones, each embodying his true essence and prowess, making it virtually impossible to discern the original among them. Prepare to witness my self-created 8 slaughter clone technique. Each of the clones possesses 90% of my peak combat power. Other than my master, no one has ever lived to see it. With this technique, I've killed 9 of the Shadow Sex experts, and you shall be the 10th, said all 8 Ji Wumings. All 8 of them suddenly vanished. However, they had just vanished when a dagger pierced through the void. A horrifying sight unfolded as Ji Wuming's head flew into the sky along with a spurt of blood. What? The 8 Ji Wumings had just materialized before everyone's eyes. However, before anyone could comprehend what was happening, one of his heads was already decapitated, leaving everyone stunned. As one body and one head fell from the sky, space twisted and Dong Mingyu's small figure slowly appeared. At the same time, Ji Wuming's lifeless body underwent a transformation. It swiftly became stiff, resembling a desiccated corpse. All signs of vitality had vanished, leaving behind a stark and lifeless figure. The 8th Fate soul-lasting art is the most basic assassination art. But if you yourself are not strong enough, will 10,000 of you be worth anything? To waste so much energy on clones in pursuit of only staying alive, you have deviated from the path of assassination. Merely focusing on survival without inflicting harm upon your enemy won't let you attain the Grand Tao, said Dong Mingyu. Her dagger flowed and rippled like water, concealing its sharpness. Yet, an aura of sheer terror emanated from it, as if it possessed the capacity to sever a neck with a single swift stroke. Ji Wuming had just summoned his clones and Dong Mingyu swiftly killed one, startling everyone. But to their astonishment, 7 Ji Wuming materialized simultaneously from different directions, launching coordinated attacks on Dong Mingyu. It appeared to be a formation technique, rendering her defense futile. No matter how Dong Mingyu blocked, she would be struck by at least one of them. This technique seemed unbeatable. However, 7 of them simply passed through Dong Mingyu, stunning everyone. Her body was like water, their attacks unable to damage her. Not good. Ji Wuming's expression suddenly darkened. At this moment, a dagger silently appeared, cutting off one of his clone's neck. Another clone was slain. Your foolishness is shocking. For me to say that it is the 8 Fate soul-lasting art proves that I understand it. The 8 Fates correspond to the 8 gates. Body, life, pain, limit, vision, death, terror, and opening. Since I have immediately killed your life gate clone, you won't have any chance of winning. After that, you decided to foolishly abandon the 8 Fate soul-chasing art, switching to the 7-star god-slaying art. It is completely out of place. What do you mean, your own 8 slaughter clone technique? You merely added something to the 8 Fate soul-chasing art. That counts as creating your own technique? You are just like your master, idiots who think themselves smart. In pursuit of the peak, you abandoned your foundation. In the end, you become foolish flowers that only admire themselves. Dong Mingyu snorted and then vanished. Die! Enraged by the insult, Ji Wuming's fury surged within him. With a roar, his 6 clones merged into one entity as he stabbed his dagger into the void. Boom! Dong Mingyu appeared once more. When the 2 daggers collided, a chilling wave of cold air rippled outward, causing anyone within its reach to experience a sharp pain within their souls. The frigid killing intent almost ripped their very souls out of their bodies. At this moment, milky white mist flowed out of Ji Wuming's manifestation, transforming into a pair of giant hands that were covered in spatial and temporal runes. Those 2 clones will not recover without at least 3 to 5 years of work. Am I right? But I suppose it's not a problem. You'll die soon anyway, so there's no need to consider such an issue. Dong Mingyu's expression was still indifferent, akin to a death god who only cared about reaping lives. She seemed devoid of any emotions. Bullshit. I have countless trump cards up my sleeves. More than enough to kill a slut like you. Ji Wuming roared furiously, his visage contorted with overwhelming rage. Those clones were nourished with his blood and effort. While he had managed to recover the essence blood and soul essence of his slain clones, it would definitely take a few years of nourishment and effort before he could use them again. Following Ji Wuming's roar, his manifestation unleashed a blaze of divine radiance. As those 2 hands formed a hand seal, a surge of majestic energy came spurting out of his dagger, akin to a star exploding. The impact sent Dong Mingyu flying back. Die! Having lost his rationality and cool, Ji Wuming stepped into the void, hurtling toward Dong Mingyu like a luminous streak. In an instant, he materialized behind Dong Mingyu like a phantom, driving his dagger with incomparable speed into her heart. Blood spurted forth, but shockingly, it wasn't Dong Mingyu's. It was Ji Wuming's blood that marked the tragic exchange. The struck Dong Mingyu was nothing more than an illusion. In a startling turn of events, the true Dong Mingyu had materialized behind Ji Wuming like a specter, her dagger stabbing a deep cut into his shoulder. Her expression was cold. After this attack, her dagger spun in her hand. She held it straight rather than backward, slicing it at Ji Wuming's neck. Ji Wuming had originally lost himself in his rage, but this one strike was like a bucket of cold water over his head, instantly clearing up his thoughts. During the exchange, when he struck Dong Mingyu's afterimage, he immediately had a bad feeling and retreated, which allowed him to avoid being struck in the head. That was why her dagger struck his shoulder. Dong Mingyu was just too fast, her techniques coming out in a never-ending stream. Even Ji Wuming's spatial and temporal energy was unable to keep up with how quickly she switched techniques. Dong Mingyu's dagger then struck Ji Wuming's neck a second time even as he retreated. This time, her dagger also failed to achieve its goal, only leaving a large cut that wasn't fatal. However, this sight still left people's hearts pounding wildly. Both of them moved incredibly quickly, and such a rapid close-range fight could be decided in one move. The person who reacted the slightest bit slowly would be killed. Whether it was the heavenly geniuses or the senior divine venerates, they had never seen such a clash of assassins before. Moreover, Dong Mingyu and Ji Wuming were peak-tier assassins. Their speed, moves, and movement arts were all terrifying. Ha ha ha! Ji Wuming suddenly laughed. His fury and terror completely vanished, as if everything before this had not happened. He then rubbed the blood on his neck and muttered to himself, "As expected, there is always a heaven beyond the heavens. Thank you for teaching me this lesson today. My master was right. My greatest shortcoming was that I didn't have a true opponent on my path of growth, resulting in me being too conceited. I needed a true grindstone to temper my sharpness, to grind away my fretfulness. Only then can I truly reach the next level. Now my grindstone has finally appeared. After killing you, I will no longer be the old Ji Wuming." Ji Wuming was originally enraged after being repeatedly injured, but he instantly calmed down. This sight left countless people stunned, including old monsters that had lived for countless years. They asked themselves whether or not they could enter such a state so quickly, to control their own anger and fear swiftly. This youngster before them was truly terrifying. "You are wrong. I am not your grindstone. You are simply my prey, or perhaps I should say that your head is a challenge letter to your master, said Dong Mingyu indifferently. Oh, is that so? Then you'll be disappointed. Suddenly, the two hands in Ji Wuming's manifestation repeatedly formed mystical hand seals. When they spread, a gate appeared between them. Endless faith energy then poured out of it, causing the entire world to shake. When the faith energy gushed out, a milky white light filled the world, bending the very laws of heaven and earth. The faith energy then spread rapidly, causing a profound change wherever it touched. In an instant, countless experts gasped for air, overwhelmed by the immense power of the faith energy. The faith energy was like water pressing down on them, turning this world into something else. They could not breathe nor absorb any energy here. It was as if they had lost the support of heaven and earth. Hence, everyone within the range of the faith energy fled for their lives. Within this region, their life and death was in Ji Wuming's hands. It was like a single thought from Ji Wuming would be enough to kill them in this terrifying faith domain. Dong Mingyu, in order to express my respect for you, I've decided to face you in my strongest state, said Ji Wuming within his 30,000-mile faith domain. Although you will die, you can die honored. Although you will die, you can die honored. Although you will die, you can die honored. Ji Wuming's voice echoed throughout heaven and earth countless times. At this moment, he seemed to be the heavenly god of this world. His words were the law, and nothing could resist him. Watching this scene, everyone was amazed and terrified at the same time. Although the 3,000 worlds also had god cultivators with faith energy, they had never even dreamed of seeing someone possessing such concentrated faith energy. This faith energy was so concentrated that it dyed this world, taking control of this world's laws. It was like the world had been possessed by it. The Bloodkill Hall's followers are spread throughout the 9 heavens and 10 lands, and no one knows just how much faith energy they've accumulated over countless years. All of this faith energy is Enputa's. As Ji Wuming is just his disciple and cannot directly mobilize it, it must have been bestowed to him by Enputa, meaning that this should be no more than 100th, or perhaps 1,000th of Enputa's faith energy. But it is already so immense. God cultivators really are enviable, sighed one expert. God cultivators. Others couldn't help being jealous of them. Faith energy was the result of specks of sand being concentrated into a soaring tower, and the one who stood at the peak of this tower controlled all of its power. Ji Wuming wasn't even the master of this tower. But just because he was Enputa's disciple, he could use a portion of his faith energy, and this portion was enough to make countless experts feel despair. As the faith energy raged, outside of the domain, people could see countless fragments of the heavenly Daos being absorbed by it. As this faith domain was constantly growing, the earth slowly collapsed, as if the weight of this domain was unbearable. The current Ji Wuming was no longer someone other supremes dared to even look at. Merely casting their eyes upon him induced unease in their very souls, as if they were committing a blasphemous act against a deity and would be struck by some terrifying karma. Even Xiachun, Guoran, and the others stood in stunned silence. Having traversed through the 9 underworld island with Longchun, Guoran, and Xiachun had come into contact with Liao Binsong's faith energy domain. However, shockingly, Ji Wuming's faith energy was many times stronger than Liao Binsong's. That was incomprehensible to them. It was worth noting that both the 9 Underworld Hall and the Bloodkill Hall boasted numerous disciples and shared a comparable history. They were expected to be relatively evenly matched. But Liao Binsong was a true hall master, while Ji Wuming was only Enputa's personal disciple. How could a disciple have so much more faith energy than a hall master? Xiachun and Guoran were unaware that by destroying the star-peering heavenly mirror, the 9 underworld islands' faith energy was destabilized, resulting in Liao Binsong not being able to draw out his full power. On the other hand, Ji Wuming was Enputa's most favored disciple, his successor. In order to be safe, Enputa had placed his Divine Radiance brand on Ji Wuming. It was due to this that Ji Wuming was capable of unleashing so much faith energy. Furthermore, the purity of his faith energy was 10 times greater than Liao Binsong's at that time. Thus, Xiachun and Guoran were stunned by the difference. Will Mingyu be alright? Guoran was worried. When he looked at Longchun, he saw that not even the first rune was fully absorbed yet. It wasn't truly a case of Longchun being too slow at absorbing it. Rather, all of them felt like time was going so slowly that it was standing still. The overwhelming nervousness in the air turned every breath into a simmering torture. As for Mo Nian, his divine palace was simply sitting there. He also showed no signs of coming out. Behind them, Yu Zifeng was recovering, sitting in the air with his sword resting on his knees. His eyes were closed in meditation as he rapidly recovered his energy. Just now, he had used up all his energy to block Ji Wuming. All of them were nervous inside. If Yu Zifeng hadn't been exhausted, with his unmatched sword Dao, even faith energy was nothing more than a transient cloud that could be easily pierced through. Other than Yu Zifeng, the only one who could fight Ji Wuming was his fellow assassin, Dong Mingyu. But Dong Mingyu didn't have faith energy. The only solace they found was in Dong Mingyu's unwavering indifference. She appeared completely unperturbed, as if everything unfolded precisely as she had foreseen, including the formidable faith domain that enveloped them all. I was waiting for this. My master told me that I was not permitted to kill you within my first 3 moves. I had to give you enough space to show off. She said that I had to kill you in your strongest state, or I'd be punished when I got back, said Dong Mingyu lightly. Ha ha ha. Ji Wuming laughed furiously. Despite having subdued his rage, these audacious words were so arrogantly delivered that they carried a profound insult within them. Kill me in my strongest state. Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Sneered Ji Wuming. Is it laughable? If I didn't agree to this when you tried to attack Big Brother Longchun, I could have killed you 3 times over. I was even hesitating over whether or not to abide by this agreement with my master. After all, the battlefield is no game. However, I still chose to listen to my master. I didn't know why she wanted to do this, but now I do. She wanted me to accumulate experience. It's all preparation for me to kill your master, Enputa, said Dong Mingyu. Nonsense, raged Ji Wuming. Even he could no longer remain cool in front of all these insults, so he charged at Dong Mingyu. His faith energy domain was like a sea crashing down on Dong Mingyu. The true clash of assassins started now. Faith energy covered the world, instantly devouring Dong Mingyu. At that moment, Dong Mingyu raised her dagger. To their astonishment, Ji Wuming's dagger materialized right before Dong Mingyu, despite him still standing in his original position. It was only when their daggers collided that Ji Wuming's figure revealed itself, appearing before Dong Mingyu from nowhere. Time domain? An expert cried out in shock. Within the faith energy domain, Ji Wuming's time domain started to show its power. When he attacked, he was a hair faster than what people saw. In other words, there was a delay between his actions and what others actually saw, posing a lethal threat to an ordinary expert. It stood as an inviolable law, an unstoppable force beyond anyone's control. However, Dong Mingyu was somehow able to accurately stop an attack that surpassed time. You have 2 supreme bones capable of controlling time and space. But it's too bad that your control is merely superficial. The profundities of time and space are something that you cannot grasp. Did you think disturbing spatial and temporal fluctuations would count as full control? You're wrong. Time and space are relative concepts. It would work against laymen, but against assassins, with our sharp senses, we can grasp the changes to the flow of time and space. Thus, your time and space energy is useless against me. I can fully grasp the fluctuations of your control. If space-time is water, then I am a fish. If the water flows calmly, that's nice. If it starts growing chaotic, that's fine with me too. I will simply adapt. Did you think you could use water to drown a fish? Asked Dong Mingyu indifferently. What nonsense. As long as the water current is chaotic enough, how will a little fish resist the flow? You will be crushed by the water pressure, retorted Ji Wuming darkly. That's correct. But with your crude control over spacetime, you are unable to harm me. Since the quality is lacking, you are trying to use quantity to win. But that is a fantasy like a fish climbing a tree. Dong Mingyu shook her head. Cut the crap. We'll see the truth right now. Ji Wuming shouted furiously. All of a sudden, he vanished. Dong Mingyu only snorted in response. Without even looking back, Dong Mingyu swiftly altered her grip on the dagger, clutching it in a reversed position, and swiftly swung it backward. As a result, her dagger accurately and perfectly blocked Ji Wuming's ephemeral attack. The effortless manner in which she accomplished this left onlookers astounded. Ji Wuming's body flickered and vanished. He unleashed dozens of attacks in a row. However, Dong Mingyu's body didn't even move. Like a beautiful dance, she blocked all of Ji Wuming's attacks with her dagger. The sound of daggers clashing was like a beautiful melody. But everyone knew that it was an overture of death where one mistake would be fatal. Dong Mingyu appeared graceful as her dagger danced around her. Her moves were all clearly seen by everyone. However, Ji Wuming was striking like lightning and retreating like a phantom, leaving behind countless afterimages. He was fierce and sharp. From a distance, it looked like a fairy was fighting an invisible devil. Every attack was fatally dangerous, causing the hearts of the spectators to race with intensity. It's already been 81 moves. My master shouldn't blame me if I kill you now. Dong Mingyu's gaze suddenly turned cold. When she finally made her real move, an unknown black energy began to spread from her body. The next moment, Ji Wuming's dagger quivered as if drawn by some terrifying force. His dagger's immense power dissipated like a clay ox falling into the ocean, vanishing without a trace. At the same time, his body contorted as it was pulled by an unseen force. Without hesitation, he unleashed his spatial energy to flee. Even though he immediately retreated, he felt a sharp pain in his neck. He had been cut once again. Ji Wuming was shocked, but even more, he was incensed. This was his third time having his throat cut, an absolutely unbearable humiliation to a peak assassin like him. However, before he could even do anything in his rage, Dong Mingyu's dagger fell on him again. Dagger images filled the sky, piercing toward him like a tempest. Ji Wuming hastily blocked, but Dong Mingyu's attacks were too fast. Some were fakes while some were fatally powerful. There were several times that Ji Wuming was injured when he tried to block a fake. At this moment, there was no time for him to counterattack. He could only rely on his instincts to block and stay alive. In just a moment, he was covered in blood. However, it went without saying that Ji Wuming was powerful. Every time he managed to avoid getting struck in a vital spot. Although he was repeatedly injured, they weren't serious injuries. Faith energy condensed into armor? An assassin wearing armor? Master is right, your Bloodkill Hall is a disgrace to the assassin world. The 9 Underworld Hall is much stronger than you, said Dong Mingyu coldly as she attacked. There were several times when Dong Mingyu's attacks almost left serious injuries, but an invisible armor would draw the dagger away from his vitals. Thus, Ji Wuming looked to be badly wounded, but those injuries were unable to pose any substantial damage to him. This invisible faith armor was his life-protecting trump card. Bullshit. Assassins are willing to use any means necessary for their goal, and the goal of an assassin can only be one thing. That is to eliminate their target. No matter how great your assassination arts are, if you can't kill your target, you are still nothing more than useless trash, shouted Ji Wuming furiously. Assassins are assassins, not rogues. If you are an assassin, you must have an assassin's professionality and integrity. Assassins must have their own rules and bottom lines, or they will be no more than coarse butchers. You have no faith, yet you gather faith energy. You are a conman. Your master Enputa is the greatest conman of all, tricking followers into giving him their faith energy to strengthen himself. While using rules to bind his followers, he follows no rules himself. He is shameless to the peak. That is why your master is called the base-killing god, sneered Dong Mingyu. TCH, what do you know? What nonsense, raged Ji Wuming. He respected Enputa the most, and these insults were even more infuriating than when she insulted him. Nonsense? Haha, you must not know. My life was almost ruined by him, as the old me was one of his followers. I believed in that sanctimonious fellow and almost brought about my own demise. Fortunately, Big Brother Longchun used his kindness to rouse me from his con. He opened a window for me that let me see the light. At that time, I swore to destroy the Bloodkill Hall so that its poison would never harm anyone again. Today will be my first step. I'll use your head as a challenge to Imputa. Dong Mingyu's voice grew increasingly frigid, accompanied by a deepening density of her killing intent. Suddenly, she swiftly formed one-handed seals, an ominous sign of impending danger. Silence of the night. In an instant, this world became covered in darkness. Within this darkness, an eerie and absolute silence prevailed, stifling any semblance of sound. When the curtain of night descended, this world became covered in endless darkness. The night devoured every trace of light and sound. In an instant, a wave of terror surged through them. Within this enveloping darkness, they couldn't see or hear anything, making them feel like they were sinking into the depths of despair. Devoid of light and bereft of hope, they couldn't even sense their own existence, evoking primal panic that seized their very core. Fortunately, this dark world only appeared for an instant. People's vision quickly recovered, as did their hearing. They then saw endless darkness flow by them toward Ji Wuming. As the dark domain crashed against Ji Wuming's faith domain, the milky white light was devoured by the darkness. The two domains then merged together. The dark was no longer pure dark, and the light was no longer pure light. Instead, it was a gray domain. This gray domain was like a solid barrier that others couldn't see through. Amidst the engulfing darkness, the only audible sounds were the clash of two divine weapons, the reverberations of Ji Wuming's furious roars, and the chilling sound of a dagger slicing through flesh. This giant gray domain materialized as a manifestation of the collision between dark energy and faith energy. Within its boundaries, the sound would intermittently dissipate, leaving an eerie silence that enveloped the world. At times, the darkness would obscure all visibility, rendering everything shrouded in obscurity. But people could see faint glimpses of two figures locked in a fierce clash. What a terrifying dark domain! When they were enveloped by that dark domain, they felt like they had died. That feeling of powerlessness and despair made them feel minuscule. After the darkness passed them, they felt like they had escaped death. It was like they had already died and were revived. It was something that they would never be able to forget in this lifetime. Peak assassins are truly terrifying. In front of them, all others are lambs for the slaughter with no power to resist, sighed one city lord. These divine venerates were all figures with status and prestige in the 3,000 worlds. They had lived for countless years, experiencing countless battles. However, they had never seen such terrifying assassins. Originally, they had been slumbering, waiting for the eruption of the 3,000 worlds. By relying on the superiority of their cultivation bases, they had been planning to crush the juniors, which allowed them to absorb more primal chaos chi and fully merge their supreme blood and supreme bone. Then they would be true double supremes and dominate the 3,000 worlds. However, now it seemed that they had been too naive. In times of destiny, great geniuses always rose. As for them, they were products of an abandoned era. This eruption of the 3,000 worlds was for the junior generation, not for them. For them to become double supremes was 1,000,000 times more difficult, as they had missed the best time to merge their supreme blood and supreme bone. Even if they did manage to merge them, it still wouldn't be such a perfect merge like Ji Wuming's. In other words, even if they became double supremes, even if their realms were two major realms greater than these newcomers in terms of combat power, they would still be a level lower. This was fate, and it could not be changed. Sometimes, once you miss something, it would never come back. Even if you fought for it with your very life, some regrets could not be made up for. They sighed over how powerful Ji Wuming was, as well as how unfair life was. If they were in the Immortal King realm, they would be born at the right time for the eruption of the primal chaos chi and soar above the 9 heavens. It should have been them. Humph. I refuse to believe in fate. As long as you can grasp an opportunity, anyone can become a peak expert. Do you know how many tens of thousands of years I've waited for this opportunity? Even if I die today, I'll fight. I would rather shatter as jade than live as some useless roof tile. I would rather die in a blaze of glory than live a life of mediocrity. What right does a little human have to touch the bloodline inheritance of the sacred dragon? Since the heavens have revealed the treasures, they are up to everyone to fight for. If you're afraid of death, then crawl back into your turtle den. I'm going forward, shouted a demonic beast. After saying that, he actually charged at the Dragonblood Legion. Due to Dong Mingyu's appearance, they had all stopped fighting. However, now more and more experts were drawn here. All kinds of powers, all kinds of heavenly geniuses, and all kinds of old monsters were now present. Following that one roar, countless people echoed his sentiment and charged as well. They were like a tsunami crashing down upon the Dragonblood Legion from all directions. These were all powerful experts, either old monsters of the level of city lords or outstanding members of the junior generation. Most terrifying of all were the newcomers that had merged their supreme blood and supreme bone. Those who dared to charge over were all extremely confident in themselves. They had immense power. As they unleashed their manifestations, a terrifying pressure emerged. Millions of experts crashed down like an avalanche. They were going to use all their power and break through the Dragonblood Legion's defenses in the most direct and explosive manner. Not good. Our formation won't hold against such a charge. Guoran and Xia Chen's expressions instantly changed. What they had been worried about had occurred. If so many attacks came at once, it would only be a simple clash of power against power. Now, the advantage they held in formation and strategy was rendered obsolete. There was no way to stop such an onslaught. Brothers, there's no other way. We can only risk our lives and protect boss till the bitter end. Guoran clenched his teeth. Just as the old man said, in front of absolute power, all schemes were useless. In such a dire predicament, no amount of intelligence or strategy could provide any assistance. Heavenly Rainbow Dao Slash. Suddenly, a majestic and beautiful voice rang out. A seven-colored sword then descended from the heavens, splitting the world in two. Boom! This giant rainbow sword was like the blade of a heavenly god, blowing away countless lifeforms directly. The rainbow sword left a deep ditch in the earth. Within the crevice, vibrant rainbow flames blazed relentlessly, their intensity igniting the very heavens above. As the flames engulfed the surroundings, space itself contorted and twisted under their scorching influence. At this moment, a beautiful figure appeared. Clad in a long dress, her long black hair fell naturally past her shoulders. With a rainbow sword in her hand, she appeared akin to a celestial fire fairy descending from the heavens. The Pill Fairy. When they saw her, all the Dragonblood warriors protecting Long Chun were filled with disbelief. They had personally witnessed the Pill Fairy dying in order to save Long Chun. Now that they saw her again, they couldn't believe their eyes. Earth Surge Golden Lotus. Before they could even exchange greetings with the Pill Fairy, another resounding cry reverberated through the air. In an instant, the earth erupted, unleashing a dazzling display of golden divine radiance that illuminated the entire sky. Golden lotuses then burst forth from the ground, enveloping countless experts in their ethereal embrace. Countless powerful experts found their way blocked by those golden lotuses, so they began to attack them. However, in a sudden turn of events, the lotuses raised their stamens, unleashing a barrage of golden swords that pierced through the bodies of the hapless experts. Countless experts simply exploded upon contact with the golden swords. What terrifying metal energy! Guoran was stunned. Those golden swords easily pierced the protective divine light of even double supreme divine venerates. He had never seen such a terrifyingly sharp metal energy before. Following that, a grand woman in a golden dress, her hair elegantly styled in a high bun, descended from the heavens above. Her holy radiance illuminated this entire world, akin to a golden war goddess. May I ask who you? Guoran cupped his fists toward her. Suddenly, Guoran's vision flickered, and before him, another person appeared. Startled, he jumped in shock, for this person had seemingly appeared out of nowhere, without any prior indication. Guoran hadn't sensed him at all. Boss Guoran. You are definitely Boss Guoran, right? asked this youngster standing in front of Guoran excitedly. Shaola, you fool! Hurry up and help! Shouted the woman covered in golden divine radiance. Oh, I'm coming. After that, the youth rapidly formed hand seals. As 3 flower pupils appeared in his eyes, the world before him twisted. Get out of here! Heaven and earth contorted, causing the experts approaching from the opposite direction to vanish instantaneously. Seeing this scene, Guoran and Xiachun only stood in stunned silence, their jaws dropping in disbelief at the bewildering sight before them. The Pill Fairy intercepted the advancing force on one side, while the Golden War Goddess stood resolute, preventing their advance on the other side. In another direction, this juvenile-looking youth unleashed a single pupil art, causing all the experts in that vicinity to seemingly evaporate into thin air. The battlefield, once teeming with enemies, instantly felt emptier. 3 people unleashed 3 attacks to stop the enemies on 3 sides. Although there was still a large group of experts that got through, the Dragonblood warriors were fearless. As long as those experts weren't concentrated together, it was manageable. However, despite the arrival of these 3, the powerful experts were not dissuaded. Every time they looked at the dragon's scale, their eyes reddened and they charged forward recklessly. The Dragonblood Legion had to go all out to stop them. I am Guoran. Junior brother, you are? Asked Guoran. Ha ha ha. I'm Bai Shaola. This is my big sister Bai Shirshir. We all follow Boss Longchun. Bai Shaola turned back to Guoran after using his pupil art. I follow myself. Don't spout nonsense. This woman was Bai Shirshir. She had gone with Bai Shaola to a treasure land where metal chi gathered, and it was just what Bai Shirshir needed. Originally, Bai Shaola was thinking of looking around more to see if there was a place more suitable for him to condense a heavenly Dao crown, but Bai Shirshir wanted to go into seclusion, so he had to stand guard over her. After that, when the huge disturbance erupted, Bai Shaola used his 3 flower pupils to see what was going on there and immediately wanted to rush over. However, Bai Shirshir was at a critical juncture, so he couldn't leave alone. When Bai Shirshir finished, the 2 immediately charged over. They only coincidentally arrived together with the Pill Fairy to resolve the trouble. Bai Shaola stuck out his tongue. Ignore her. In any case, we're all on the same side. What is going on with Boss? Bai Shaola waved his hand to Longchun, who was encased in a dragon scale egg. Boss Longchun is currently absorbing the true dragon runes inside the dragon scale. He has already finished the first and there are 7 more. We have to stand guard until he's done, said Guoran. Amidst the rumbling, Bai Shirshir and the Pill Fairy began fighting off those countless experts. One was in control of the heavenly rainbow flame, and the other was in control of sharp metal energy. Neither of them was afraid of fighting groups. They had huge area of effect attacks that completely stopped their enemies, relieving the pressure on the Dragonblood Legion. From their positions, they were affecting the entire battlefield. The ones who went past them also didn't dare to go all out for fear of those 2 collapsing on them. Then they would be pincered and truly doomed. With Yu Qingxian and Bai Shirshir joining in, the tempo of the battlefield slowed down. In this situation, the Dragonblood Legion's formation was extremely effective. Even with endless enemies, as long as they didn't concentrate all their attacks on the Dragonblood warriors at once, there was nothing to be afraid of. As the Dragonblood Legion unleashed their killing formation, a mesmerizing display of divine light danced around them. In the next instant, sword chi erupted like a tempest, accompanied by resounding dragon cries that reverberated through the battlefield. The Dragonblood warriors, fully harnessing the power of their Dragonblood energy, experienced a profound resonance within their bloodlines, elevating their collective coordination to an unprecedented level. Over 2,700 Dragonblood warriors were stopping an endless tide of experts on the level of city lords. The full might of all 2,700 of them merged perfectly, and after forcibly stopping the first wave, they took command of the tempo and counterattacked. Their slaughter formation was like saw blades for flesh. Countless experts were directly blasted apart by their brute power, and countless fragments of divine weapons flew through the air. However, those weapons belonged to both their enemies and the Dragonblood warriors. After their weapons exploded, the Dragonblood warriors switched to whatever weapon they could grab. Fuck! If my brothers could use the divine weapons that I forged, these fellows would be worthless against them. Seeing the Dragonblood warriors using random weapons, Goran felt terrible inside. Some of the Dragonblood warriors were using swords and sabers. However, some of those sabers were already broken, and some warriors were even more pitiful. One in particular was only using half a rounded mace as a weapon. Now, the Dragonblood Legion was like a group of impoverished bandits. They were using whatever they could get their hands on. Their weapons didn't suit them, causing their combat potential to be much lower than it could be. That made Goran, as the general, feel extremely bad. Every single Dragonblood warrior was an elite trained through countless battles, the killing gods of the battlefield. Even in the immortal world where there were countless heavenly geniuses and supremes, their light was not covered. It didn't matter what opponent they faced. The Dragonblood warriors were always the bravest, craziest wolves. They didn't know fear and never ran away from a fight. Even without suitable weapons, they still maintained their complete formation, crazily slaughtering their enemies. As a result, crimson blood rained down from the heavens. Luckily, without powerful weapons, they still had the powerful Dragonblood battle armor, which invoked a potent Dragonblood domain. Within this domain, their power flowed easily, as if an invisible dragon was swimming around them protectively. Even after fighting for so long, instead of succumbing to fatigue, they only grew fiercer, as if their power was inexhaustible. Gather up and kill those two women before charging again. Don't waste time with a battle of attrition. After seeing that they were unable to break through the Dragonblood Legion's formation even after attacking for a long time, someone gave an order. The skilled experts could see that the Dragonblood Legion's formation could only be destroyed if they launched an instantaneous attack that overwhelmed them. Otherwise, they would just be sending themselves to their deaths. Just then, a huge group of powerful experts appeared in the distance, akin to a black cloud coming their way. There were hundreds of thousands of them. Those are... Xiachun was surprised when he saw them. Those were the people that Bai Shaola had made vanish. Sorry, I can't kill so many of them at once, so I can only use the spatial energy of my pupil art to transport them away. Furthermore, I can't send them too far. They've come back, said Bai Shaola apologetically. Pupil art. You know pupil arts. Aya. This thing is for you then. Goran slapped his leg and suddenly took out a staff, handing it to Bai Shaola. Boss said that he was saving this for a brother who knew pupil arts. He must have meant you. This staff was none other than the artifact left behind by the Heavenly Eye Elder. Prior to his departure, the Elder had bestowed two invaluable treasures upon them. His 6 Dao Heavenly Eye and this remarkable staff. Bai Shaola reached out and touched it. The moment he did so, the entire staff transformed into runes, which then flowed and formed a spatial gate. As the spatial gate opened, a pair of giant eyes appeared within it. The moment those eyes manifested, an icy chill permeated the air, causing a bone-deep coldness that seemed capable of freezing one's very soul to appear. Brat, you wish to form a contract with me? As the master of those eyes spoke, its voice shook the 9 heavens, changing the very color of the sky. When those eyes appeared, Goran and the others' hair stood on end. Those were the eyes of the devil, filled with bloodthirst. It was like this life form only lived for slaughter. I. Bai Shaola's jaw dropped. He had no idea what had just happened. Why are you wasting my time? If you want to form a contract, then bring out your spiritual seal. Fuck. I really regret fighting to get here first. I ended up running into a useless oaf. If you refuse to make a contract this time, you can just say that you give up. This contractual ceremony will then be abolished. A month later, you can restart it and we'll have another chance to make a contract, said the Master of the Eyes impatiently. I'm not prepared. Bai Shaola was quivering in fear in front of those eyes. He didn't even know what to say. Hurry and accept. Goran could see that this life form was regretting coming for Bai Shaola. It clearly wanted to leave, so Goran hastily urged Bai Shaola on. Shut your mouth. That life form unleashed a deafening roar, and its pupils contracted into minuscule dots. Goran, at that moment, felt indescribable anguish, as if his very soul was on the verge of being torn apart. A terrifying presence descended upon him like an unstoppable tsunami, overwhelming him with its immense might. Boom! Suddenly, the sacred might of a dragon rippled outward, blasting back the lifeform's power, tore through the void inch by inch. That lifeform seemed surprised. Only then did it take note of Long Chun, who was wrapped in a dragon scale. At this moment, Guoran was startled and enraged. Fortunately, Long Chun was right behind him, so this lifeform had disturbed the dragon scale, causing it to resolve its pressure on Guoran. Otherwise, he might be in a bad state right now. Courting death, are you? Disturb my boss and I'll kill you. What? Are you looking down on us? Since you've come, do you regret it? Shaola, form a contract with it. If it doesn't submit, boss will help you put it in its place. Raged Guoran. All right, I'll form the contract. Bai Shaola nervously took out his spiritual seal. Brat, you won't regret it? Demanded the life form coldly. I won't regret it. Bai Shaola clenched his teeth. He didn't know anything himself, but he trusted Long Chun and everyone beside him. That life form stared at Bai Shaola and then Long Chun, who was wrapped in a golden egg. In the end, it took out a rune and placed it on Bai Shaola's spiritual seal. Buzz. The moment the two seals met, the void began to shake. After that, the spatial gate slowly moved until it was behind Bai Shaola. Originally, Bai Shaola's manifestation had a pair of 3 flower patterns in it. That was a projection of his 3 flower pupils. In the midst of it all, the eyes within the spatial gate merged with the 3 flowers, transforming into a remarkable pair of double eyes. Boom! When those 2 eyes merged, the spatial gate exploded and a towering figure tore out of the void, shaking the world with its wild aura. This creature was a terrifying embodiment of power. Resembling a fox, it possessed 9 tails, each with its own colors, almost looking like the plumage of a peacock in full bloom. The desolate beast of the era of legends, the 9-tailed demon fox? When this life form revealed itself, a city lord cried out in horror. Its pupils, they are violet. Can't be. The legendary emperor of the 9-tailed demon foxes, the violet pupil 9-tailed demon fox. So the legends of that era are true. There really is such an existence. A voice quivered. The crowd stood in disbelief, their eyes wide with trepidation, as the existence they had only heard of in ancient tales revealed itself before their eyes. The era of legends was a vague time. All kinds of stories and paintings from that era were handed down through generations, attempting to capture its essence. However, they remained fragments of the past, lacking clarity and definitive origins, making it challenging to trace their true roots. Like whispers in the wind, the tales of that era carried an air of uncertainty, leaving gaps in the understanding of history. Even though the skepticism lingered, the allure of stories persisted among the people. The divine beasts depicted within those tales, in particular, inspired vivid imaginations, leading to the creation of vibrant images. Hence, the sudden manifestation of an actual violet pupil 9-tailed demon fox held a profound visual impact, leaving countless individuals captivated by it. If the violet pupil 9-tailed demon fox truly existed, then didn't it mean that many other legends could appear in this world at any moment? A desolate chi swirled around it, causing countless experts to feel like their hearts would explode. This was a beast that had walked out of the era of legends. It was terrifying. Brat, I have formed a contract with you, but if you're too weak, this would be blasphemy to my violet pupil 9-tail race. According to our contract, I can kill you to escape the bindings that hold us together, said the violet 9-tailed demon fox, its voice icy cold without any emotion. However, when it looked through the battlefield, its violet pupils emitted a demonic light. It was like a beast eyeing endless prey. Bai Shaola was still horrified by what he had summoned, so he didn't even know what to say. He had never imagined that he would gain such a terrifying contractual divine beast. Fuck. So weak. What can I do in this state? The violet pupil nine-tailed demon fox looked down at the little fellow in front of him a bit irritably. Use your pupil art and the mnemonic I gave you to merge your power with mine. Let me see what kind of level we can reach when our powers merge. Oh! Only then did Bai Shaola form hand seals. As divine light flowed in his eyes, the void shuddered. After that, the violet pupil nine-tailed demon fox's enormous figure rapidly shrank until it was only 300 meters tall. What is this? The violet nine-tailed demon fox seemed enraged, as if it was going to explode. It glared at Bai Shaola in such a manner that Bai Shaola thought it was going to eat him. What do you mean, what is this? Stuttered Bai Shaola in terror. How can our merged power be so weak? It's not even 1,000th of what mine was. How can you be so weak? Roared the violet pupil nine-tailed demon fox. A wild chi wave then blasted away Bai Shaola. When others merged with me, the result was far beyond 1 + 1. As for you, rather than increasing my power, you've only weakened me. What is the point of this? Bai Shaola was shaken by this roar, his mind crumbling. As a result, he could only stare in terror at the violet pupil nine-tailed demon fox and had no idea what to say. Brother, calm yourself. I follow my boss and I'll grow quickly. Give me some time, please. I'm weak now, but I'll get stronger, said Bai Shaola while trembling with fear. Many people thought that such gutless words would cause the violet pupil nine-tailed demon fox to be further enraged, but unexpectedly, it looked toward Long Chun and suppressed its anger. Merge with my spiritual body. I want to test your pupil arts. All right? As Bai Shaola's hand seals changed, he vanished, reappearing on the violet pupil nine-tailed demon fox's head. After that, the aura of fox and man became one. Boom! The violet pupil nine-tailed demon fox's body suddenly vanished. It reappeared on the battlefield, unleashing a sharp claw that tore through the void.